everybody. Welcome to Roundtable Live for November 4th, 2016. I'm Bear Taffy, joined by Northern Lion, Rock Lee, Smile, Mathis Games, and joining us for the 5th, 7th, 90th time is Sinvicta. Welcome back, buddy. How you doing?
Hey, everybody. I think it's only my 4th time, but yeah, glad to be back here.
But it sure feels like 90, doesn't it?
It sure feels like 90 episodes, Nick. That's right.
Well, peel back the onion. Okay, no, you go ahead.
For those of you watching, I think you have a picture of Sinvicta, but when Sinvicta talks for us, all we see is black background, white text that says Sinvicta. It's extremely dynamic right now.
High quality production values, man.
My webcam, it just couldn't handle the beauty of my non-shavedness today. But no, seriously, I was having webcam problems, so sorry about that. You can't look at me looking at Ryab for the entire show.
You know, I misheard that as shavedness, though, and I got really excited and then also simultaneously disappointed that you're not showing us a clean-shaven Sinvicta.
No, I'm not. That's the thing. I have not shaved.
Okay,
so
okay.
Clean shaven Sinvicta is a 3-mana, 3/4 epic with a battle cry that gives a minion.
Let's talk BlizzCon, right? Yeah.
Hearthstone.
That's the start of our show today, BlizzCon 2016 recap. We brought Sin on board. He's our resident Heroes of the Storm and other Blizzard game expert. Senior Blizzard correspondent, Sinvicta.
Expert is a loose term. I would say slightly better than a noob, but not quite.
All right. That's good enough for us, I think. We're going to talk BlizzCon 2016, quick recap of a whole bunch of announcements came by way of their press conferences this morning, so we're going to talk briefly about what we heard. Also, the Steam Store, as we noted last week, will soon be requiring all devs to list their games with actual in-game screenshots as opposed to promotional materials or artwork or anything like that. Finding Paradise was announced. It's the sequel / episode 2 of To the Moon, that series that Nick just recently played, so kind of good timing there. Ubisoft is putting out Far Cry Blood Dragon for free this month as part of their ongoing UB30 promotion. EVE is going free to play, and we're going to be talking a little bit about Hitman. Season 2 was just confirmed by IO Interactive, along with Owlboy, which just came out this week, and lots of people have been talking about Owlboy. We're going to touch a bit on Titanfall 2 near the end of the show as well. But to start off, let's do BlizzCon 2016. Sinvicta,
Yes.
are you excited genuinely by anything you heard this morning?
I am.
Okay.
Overwatch news, super huge. Here's the Storm, new heroes, new stuff, super huge. Diablo is, it's getting Diablo, and Hearthstone is going to NL over there.
Yeah.
The statement Diablo is getting Diablo.
It really is. It's very, it's accurate.
You don't understand the context.
Well,
Yeah,
let's
I'm
talk Diablo real quick for us, because I think that might be like the least interesting bit of news that we got today.
All right, so I don't know where the rumors perpetuated from that Diablo 4 was going to be talked by anybody. I have no idea where that originated.
Probably like Jesse, because he was like shitting all over Diablo 4 for a while. He's like, I swear they're going to announce Diablo 4. They have nothing else to announce. And
yeah, he also calls Jaina Dreadlord, which she's clearly not. But there's literally a 0% chance that we see or hear anything official about Diablo 4 in this decade. I will almost put money on that. But what the Diablo news was, it was basically they are going back to remake the original Diablo, and players are going to be going back to Tristram, the original town from the first game. There's going to be a multi-level stage boss, and it concludes with an actual fight versus the old version of Diablo. So they're bringing in like new the old sound effects, old music, except it's going to be livened up a little bit. It's actually pretty cool because Diablo 3 is sort of stagnated for a while because of a game that may or may not rhyme with Path of Exile, but I'm excited to see the new stuff nonetheless for Diablo 3, and I'm glad that Blizzard is still putting resources into that because it's a lot better since the expansion. Go play it.
Mm-hmm.
But that was about it. Oh, by the way, they also got a new hero class. I mean, I don't know if anybody wants to talk about the Necromancer, but yeah, the Necromancer also is going to be coming back. It's the first new class we've gotten since the expansion came out with the Crusader and everything. So there you go. If you wanted to play Necromancer, you don't have to play Witch Doctor anymore.
Congratulations, those of you. Raise your hand out there if you're still going for the daily grind in Diablo 3. Let us know, because we need a good sampling.
There's still a lot of people that play.
Yeah, I think so. I thought it kind of died off a little bit after the... well, I know the launch definitely didn't go extraordinarily smoothly, and then I think just sort of trailed off from there. That was my perspective of it anyway.
There were some peaks when people got back in when they started doing the seasons and they revamped it a bunch.
And they got rid of like that
little
real money market bullshit.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Reaper of Souls was like extremely well received, along with the PS4 re-release. So I mean, I kind of feel like it definitely peaked and had a little bit of a long tail, but it's like one of Blizzard's few games that doesn't have an evergreen reason to keep coming back to it right now.
Right.
So, I mean, that's why I personally was like, it seems like maybe the time, if it was going to be any time, would be now to announce like Diablo 4. But I guess maybe they still got a couple of years of milking that a little bit.
At
Not that
least
they
4.
shouldn't, but I don't know. I know Blizzard has a reputation for releasing things like with huge gaps in between them, but 2020 for Diablo 3 or Diablo 4 seems crazy to me.
Mark my word on Roundtable Podcast number
65.
190.
Oh.
When we get here in 2020, Diablo 4 would have been announced only that year. I almost guarantee that.
All right.
But yeah, Reaper of Souls definitely it did somewhat to the extent of what the Lord of Destruction expansion did for Diablo 2. It sort of brought everything back and renewed it, and they sort of addressed a lot of the issues. But I mean, overall, it's people only really go back to play when a new season starts to get the season exclusive rewards, and then they stop playing after like 2 weeks, unless they're streaming or something. So
Sounds about right. And moving on then, let's talk about Heroes of the Storm next.
yeah, Heroes. They announced 2 new heroes. Varian, who's an Alliance character from the Warcraft universe, for those of you who play that game. That's an indie title we may not have heard of. Also, Ragnaros is going to actually be a playable hero, which surprised everybody. Varian was kind of like we expected it. They teased it a long time ago.
Yeah.
But Rag totally surprised everybody. They're also doing what they call the Nexus Challenge, which is that they give you and at least one friend or more to earn a bunch of rewards. You get like new heroes, you can get like exclusive mounts, exclusive portraits and stuff just from playing games. I think the first baseline is like 15 games. So it's Blizzard basically trying to entice people to come back to Heroes of the Storm, or if you've never played it before. And yeah, and there's also a new Brawl map coming out that's themed after Blackheart's Bay. But overall, really exciting. I was not expecting this amount of news coming out from the Heroes of the Storm universe. I thought it was all going to be Overwatch, but Heroes they've got some pretty cool stuff coming up, and I know a lot of people are excited for it.
Yeah, I know. Ryan and I were talking about this a little bit earlier today, but I sort of feel Heroes, even for Blizzard, it's probably not in their top 5 right now, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, it's probably
Don't they have 6 games?
I mean, like at the moment, yeah, but
Like it's definitely Overwatch, Hearthstone, probably WoW after that.
yeah.
Maybe StarCraft 2, Diablo 3, Heroes of the Storm, or maybe it's StarCraft 2, Heroes of the Storm, Diablo 3.
I would say that Heroes of the Storm is slightly above Diablo 3, but that's sort of subjective whenever you look at it from a non-season ladder in Diablo 3. Like Heroes has kind of really gone from the game that everyone was super excited to try, but then played it the early versions and didn't really like it so much. But those that stuck around have been around for a while, but you're getting tired of it. For me, I don't really play casually anymore with it just because I just wait for new stuff now. But they've really been going hard at trying to introduce new stuff. They've got the new mode, and the BlizzCon announcements today, I know have a lot of people buzzing that they want to get their hands on stuff. So the one thing I will say about Blizzard in the past couple BlizzCons is that they learn from their past mistakes, which is like showing something that we can't possibly play or touch for months on end until like down the road. Now they're doing this whole week turnover thing.
Yeah.
So, they announced it at BlizzCon. It's out next week, outside of the Hearthstone expansion. And that sort of thing is what we've been hoping that Blizzard would do for a while now. So they're doing a better job of managing the hype, because Blizzard's been hype masters for that. But as far as releases go, they tend to be a little bit more carnivorous whenever it comes to trying to compete against other games in the same genre that are going for big releases, which is good on them, but it also kind of kills the hype. So the faster turnaround is going to be really cool, and I think that Heroes of the Storm is going to do better. It's not going to ever eclipse Overwatch or Hearthstone, but it's exciting times if you've ever wanted to dabble in Heroes. It's a good time to get back into it.
Well, like I appreciate that Heroes of the Storm offers like something different for MOBAs, but I have pretty much zero interest in playing it. But if I did, I think Blizzard made a really good decision in promoting it. Like, for people that are super into Overwatch, all you have to do to get a Genji skin is play 15 games with a friend in Heroes of the Storm, right?
Yep.
Now, a lot of people are probably going to log in, play 15 games. I mean, that's still like, was that like 4 or 5 hours, I think, of games of Heroes of the Storm.
Yeah, around there. I mean, let's not sugarcoat it. It's Blizzard saying, please come try this game because we have cool stuff we can offer. But that's the sort of thing that like I feel that they've needed to integrate into Heroes a lot more often, because I mean that the whole premise around the game is that all their heroes are joining together to fight each other in what's called the Nexus. So it makes sense that they're feeding all the players from all the franchises to sort of converge in Heroes of the Storm, and then letting them branch back out to get rewards in other games. It's something that I thought that they would do from the start, a couple years late on that, but I think that they're moving in the right direction with it. Is it going to be game breaking? Is it going to bring, millions of players back? Realistically, probably not, but it's certainly not going to do any harm to the game. It's going to do way more good than we've seen for Heroes in the last couple of months than harm, I think.
Yeah, and because it's only rewards for not Hearthstone. Sorry, it's only rewards for Overwatch, and like vice versa. Like if you played 30 games, then you get some kind of new.
You get a portrait
or portrait.
Yeah. Well, you get a mount, a portrait. There's like a StarCraft thing that you can get as well. But yeah, it will at least bring other players from other universes who haven't tried it to say, hey, even if you don't like the game, you'll still put some time into it, and maybe come back to it, and you'll try to keep a little current on the news. So it's a good idea all around. They should have done it a lot sooner.
If they implemented, if you play 20 games with a friend, you get a new hero portrait in Hearthstone, I probably would be compelled to install it and go through that, to be honest with you. So
yeah.
If they continue to do that, I could see myself checking it out at some point in the future, and hopefully not being sucked in and playing it for 800 hours.
Then if you don't get sucked in, they failed their job.
Did they though? It's zero cost to them, I think.
I want to say it too. Talk about an asset, man. God, they've got so much power to leverage behind every one of their game series, and they can use all the other successful ones to make the others more successful, especially because they're so intertwined. And it's only thematic most of the time, too. All they have to do to get a bunch of hype for people to play more Heroes is introduce characters that they already know. They know these characters from WoW, and that's half the reason they're so excited about it. So they've already got such a great lore and, narrative to everything they've done over the years that it really allows them to just immediately create hype where there may not be some for a lot of other players.
The only problem that we saw with Heroes of the Storm initially was that it would basically cannibalize its own audience, because you have a pre-installed amount of fans who play WoW who might share time with Hearthstone or might share time with Heroes of the Storm, but you're also you're sort of divvying up the same person's time, in I guess it's fractions of what they have available to play video games across how many franchises they play across Blizzard's library. So Heroes is sort of it's kind of homogenized the regular player, the casual players kind of go to Heroes maybe, but they're like, well, I could play a game of Heroes, which could take 20 or 25, 30 minutes, or since I'm casual, I could also play Hearthstone, but now that they're actually offering, they're trying to give something back to those type of players as well, is a good idea. I mean, that they should use Heroes as sort of the launching pad for, it should be the poster child for, hey, play this game, you get to play this game. If you haven't tried Overwatch, well, go play it, because now you have a Genji skin, and
right.
Again, this is something that we've been wanting to see from Heroes for a while. It's just it's taken them so long to get here. I don't know if I wouldn't necessarily say it's too late, but I think that they could have definitely capitalized on a lot more if they did this a year ago,
right?
Than this year.
Mm-hmm. Well, speaking of Overwatch, to no one's surprise at all, Sombra is Overwatch's newest character. The announcement was made at BlizzCon, and okay, Sin, I had to laugh when you said this, how Blizzard has been learning from its mistakes as far as providing people with months of info that they can't quite touch, but they know it's there.
Yep.
The Sombra ARG, I don't know, man. I think everyone knew a month and a half ago probably that Sombra was going to be announced at BlizzCon. It's sort of just making the ARG kind of pointless.
I saw cosplay of Sombra at BlizzCon.
It wasn't a very good kept secret. I mean, to be fair to Blizzard, it did get leaked. It got leaked 2 weeks ago, the character design and her logo and everything.
Yeah.
2 weeks ago? I thought she got leaked way before that, no?
What's the point of having an ARG if you're obviously going to announce it?
That's the whole point, yeah.
Yeah,
That's how everyone kind of felt. like the Sombra ARG was nowhere near as in depth as people would have thought. Like it's certainly nowhere near like the Isaac ARG that happened. Like
Was it even really an ARG?
I think it was just like an
Yeah,
elaborate promo,
well-
man.
Well, they did hide some cryptic stuff in like lines of code. They had a fake website come up. They had a Mexican site come up that was actually part of the lore from Sombra's universe in Overwatch. So like they put some time into it, but the thing is that it just didn't surprise anyone whenever it came out. Like pretty much anyone bet the house that we were going to see Sombra's like conclusion at the beginning of the opening ceremony, which exactly happened.
Yeah.
So at a certain point, I feel like they should have just announced her because everyone thought that Anna was going to be Sombra.
Mm-hmm.
Because of all those, there's like pictures on a table that you could say like you could see Sombra's an insignia or something. But overall, I think the mutual feeling for most people is that like, okay, finally they're going to end this sort of thing. You know, there's no disappointment, but that's because there was no expectation because everyone already knew what it was.
Yeah.
So.
It gave Force weeks of content, though.
Force Overwatch strategy gaming, yeah.
It feels really disingenuous to have such a big fuss over what amounts to a character in a game.
Yeah.
It's like, who
Don't
cares?
tell
Another shooter
that,
character in a freaking multiplayer MOBA. Shooter MOBA, sorry.
Not really a MOBA.
I don't know what we called Overwatch.
It's a hero
Team
shooter.
Hero shooter.
team shooter, yeah. The character itself, though, based on just like I assume that the cinematic that they played was sort of meant to hint at the skills and the abilities that Sombra would have in multiplayer play, which look interesting. It appears as though she's got a teleportation pad that you can set down in a certain place and then recall back to, which is definitely not a novel idea, but it is, you know, it's nice to have in Overwatch. And then she's got an active camo, it appears. Pretty much just an SMG is her main weapon of choice. And then I didn't notice what her ult might be. I think it might be like taking control of another ult, which would be a really interesting mechanic. Something I could see being utilized in a myriad of interesting ways.
Yeah, I haven't heard as far as like the actual abilities go, but I mean, she's basically going to be the character that all of like the super duper MLG elite status pros play, but also the newbies play because like, oh, stealth. I'm just going to sit here and wait in the corner and I'm going to kill this Reinhardt over and over again. So it's cool to see a stealth hero, whether or not, you know, it's going to work very well in a game. I mean, if you go back, if you want to talk about sort of stealthy, we've kind of seen this with the spy in Team Fortress 2, where I guess they're somewhat pseudo invisible. You know, I mean, taking the disguise of someone else. So I don't know if they're going to try to play to something like that, but yeah, she looks cool. Whether or not she's going to, you know, be awesome to play, I'm not sure yet because I haven't got a chance to play her.
Mm-hmm. And then another bit of big Overwatch news actually coming out of BlizzCon was the announcement of Overwatch League, which is Blizzard's new esports organization. And of course, Blizzard is not new to the esports scene. In fact, they were one of the first to really find success in it with StarCraft years ago. But they are now looking to build something a little different compared to the current esports scene as we know it. So there's kind of I didn't really actually think about this very much until I read the Polygon article talking about this, but there is a bit more of a focus on the prize pool in esports compared to standard sports, especially. Like there's a weird infatuation with like the amount of money that these teams are taking home, especially when you talk about the international. Like what's probably the first thing you think of when you think of the international is
you get like $12 million
right,
if you win.
Exactly. So you're pretty focused on that most of the time as far as esports are concerned. And it sounds like Blizzard kind of wants to change that with Overwatch League. They're looking to make it more like a standard competitive organization like the NFL or the MLB, as opposed to just another esports tournament run by Blizzard. It sounds really interesting.
Yeah, I like that. I think that the prize pool focus right now is great if you win the international, or even if you come like top 12 in the international. You know, that's like your operating expenses for a year to forever, depending on, you know, how well you do. But you know, when you think of something like, you know, the NFL or the NHL or the MLB, like how shitty would it be for the players if it was like, well, you're on the Miami Marlins and you won 40 games this year, so nobody's getting paid shit. Right. And also, like, all of you are fired because you suck. So, You know, the idea that they have of making a league that has like, I don't know if it's going to have like a formal players union, but they're going to have like rules when it comes to things like contracts, and there will be actually free agency. So a player
There's going to be an off season. Like that's a big part of this.
So players can actually like leave a team when their contract runs out and then be courted by other teams. And hopefully that leads to things like guaranteed salaries or, you know, something not exclusively like performance-based payouts. And I think that would lead to a healthier scene where people, like right now, people are desperate to win because if they win, that's basically the only way they can justify it.
Yeah.
But it would be much nicer to just have people be able to practice, you know, and get paid like a reasonable salary, especially when they're generating a lot of money for not only the teams that employ them, but also, you know, for Blizzard themselves, because they drive a lot of interest in Overwatch in particular.
Yeah, I like that they're going for a more structured approach instead of the somewhat archaic style that esports has kind of been plagued with. I mean, it's just rife for like abuse. We saw that going on with Kespa and everything over in Korea. So I'm glad that Blizzard's finally taken like an official like stance on, hey, we're just going to run it. We're going to run it the way that we want to, and we're also going to pay people because you know that they legally, there's no way that they're too big to fail. So they're always going to have the money to be able to pay for coaches and teams and that sort of thing. And player salaries, they're not going to have to worry about tournaments not paying out, which is good. Really quickly, I actually did, someone linked it in chat live. Summer's abilities are right there. And her ultimate is the EMP, which is it just disables everything that it hits for a couple of seconds. The translocator is the beacon. It's basically like a directed shadow step like Reaper has. Yeah. Except she throws like a grenade or something, and then there's camo and other stuff. So yeah, that we just now got that. Almost breaking news.
Yeah, nice.
Roundtable podcast. So thank you, Chad.
There's another facet to this as well that I think is really interesting in that they are looking to establish geographically based teams. So instead of, you know, the current organizations like Evil Geniuses, Complexity Gaming, those sorts of teams that are, you know, just sort of scattered around the world, they don't really have a centralized location as far as where they hail from. I think Blizzard would like to begin creating, you know, regional allegiances and try to tap into that sense of engagement that is really missing from esports right now. That would be a lot easier to get into for folks if they said like, oh, hey, this is the team that plays from the area that I'm closest to. I think I can easily align myself with them just based on that alone, which makes it really easy. I mean, like that's the first thing I think people think of when they want to become a fan of a sports team is go, okay, so who plays in our state? Yeah. Who should I root for?
I think it's smart.
Yeah.
And that's the way it works right now. Like if you watch like American Twitter during the International, people aren't like, oh, I have like a deep connection to the Evil Geniuses brand, so I would really like Evil Geniuses to win this tournament. They're like, there's 6 Chinese teams and then 1 American team. I'm rooting for Team America, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not above it. Like I chose my champion in the Hearthstone tournament. I chose them because they were Canadian. You know, there's already that like built-in sort of regional preference to be like, well, if all other things are equal and I know nothing, I'm going to root for the person that has like a shared, you know, region to me. So I think I honestly like the idea of removing like sponsored names from esports team names because it's so hard to follow what's happening when there's like, oh, Team Complexity and StarCraft has this, Team Complexity and Overwatch has this. Is very confusing.
And you just see the same players, at least back in StarCraft, even to Dota 2 to an extent. Like the same players just shifting teams. You're like, all right, who is he playing for now? Is he Complexity? Is he Root? Is he, I don't know. You more in StarCraft in particular, you more picked the player and then just followed the team.
Right.
You didn't really worry about the team as much. Dota has that a little bit, because I know Na'Vi is like a fucking shadow of its former self. But
I mean, you've got right now. Looking at Overwatch for a second, like they've already started to kind of move in that direction because one of the events going on right now at BlizzCon is called the Overwatch World Cup. So they're trying to grab onto that fanaticism of, you know, my country is representing me playing Overwatch here. So, and, you know, outside of Overwatch, really the only other one that comes to mind, of course, is Dota. I mean, StarCraft 2 kind of had a sort of like a Battle of Nations tournament, but it wasn't really ever picked up officially by Blizzard or anything like that. So, but the Overwatch World Cup's going on right now, and you're starting to see that sort of emergent fan base come out like, oh, hey, I'm from Spain. They're in, you know, Group A in the finals or something like that. You know, like I think that is a good idea, and I see them trying to implement a lot of that a lot of that uniformity with the team representations into the Overwatch League. So you don't have to wait for the World Cup to culminate at BlizzCon anymore. We're gonna have seasons off seasons. So overall it's a great idea, and I'm glad that Blizzard's taking a more official approach in esports. Whereas StarCraft 2, they did it towards the tail end of the StarCraft 2 popularity. That was mainly run by private organizations.
Dead game.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they came out with the Blizzard WCS, and then they incorporated it. And there's a whole KESPA issue, but yeah, it's good for Overwatch, and overall, good for esports in general.
With the issue of esports fandom too, it's like, I think it was Mathis just said that there's really only an allegiance to players mostly, right? And they the fans will follow the players from team to team, but they're really just interested in how their favorite guy is doing. And I think while that's still that's actually a factor in sports too, just regular sports. Like, I'm a fan of the New England Patriots, right? But I like particular players more than others on the Patriots as well. Like, I really like Rob Gronkowski, and if he were to go to a different team, I may not actually go follow his interests still, because he doesn't play for my team still. So that's the difference there. And I think the season and off season thing will actually help with that, help to alleviate a little bit of the fan disconnect, because it gives them that time to really facilitate trades and transactions and team shifts, and it gives people not only time to perform those actions, but it also gives the fans time to sort of settle down and identify where their allegiances lie again. And it really helps everybody, honestly, in the ecosystem to be a little bit more balanced. The players, the coaches, the teams, the fans, they all kind of benefit from having that leeway, that downtime that allows for everyone to make the moves they need to make.
Yeah, you won't have the fan fatigue either kicking
right.
in.
Mm-hmm.
It's overexposure, which is what StarCraft suffered terribly from towards the tail end of its popularity. There was just so many StarCraft tournaments out there. It's like I could have swore I just got done watching EG over here, but then they're also playing over there. It was in the day, it was like, I'm a big fan of Idra. I don't care about Evil Geniuses. I'm just going to watch where Idra goes next, sort of thing.
Sure.
So brand loyalty is what they're going for in this, and that's great for, again, all around. Hi, Nick. How you doing?
Hey, Nick.
Hey, Nick.
Hey guys,
Idra?
I had nothing to say, so I just thought I'd not put my foot in my mouth like I did a moment ago and just be quiet.
Idra was my favorite player, Sin.
Why are we talking about the only game Blizzard makes that didn't have an announcement at BlizzCon? Nobody cares about StarCraft 2.
Dead game.
Let's talk about...
Yeah, man, he's trying to revive it by himself over there right now.
Let's talk about the game that people care second to last about at BlizzCon.
That's not true. That's probably the second most anticipated announcement at BlizzCon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Hearthstone announced their new expansion. I have to look up the name, but it's in Gadgetzan.
Oh, Mean Streets of Gadgetzan.
That's it. Mean Streets of Gadgetzan. So if you're not familiar with Hearthstone, they have two kind of content releases. One is Adventures, which are single-player themed, curated battles that give you a nice supply of guaranteed cards, basically. Oftentimes they make a big difference in the meta, and it's guaranteed legendaries, which is awesome. And then expansions are more traditional Magic-style releases where there's 100, 130 cards that come out, and you buy packs for it, and the packs have a theme, or the set has a theme. So this one is kind of the theme aesthetically is 1930s mob culture, it seems or gritty kind of underworld mafia style stuff, but the mechanics that they introduced look really cool. They've introduced tri-class cards, so cards that can be used by 3 classes, and there's sort of themed factions. So you can play a card as a mage that allows you to discover a card that's also for a priest or for a mage or a paladin or warlock. That's right, yeah. So they're kind of themed by that, which seems really cool. And beyond that, they introduced a couple of cards that are really neat. One card has the ability to, if you have no duplicates in your deck, sort of like a Reno Jackson condition, then you can construct your own spell when you play it. So when you play it, it's do you want a 1-mana spell, a 5-mana spell, or a 10-mana spell based on what you choose? It gives you different effects to choose from, and you can make your own spell within certain criteria, at least. So it looks really cool. I'm excited for it. It comes out in a month or so, which is plenty of time to grind some in-game gold. And I'm not the biggest fan, aesthetically, of the set. I think the theme is kind of a little tonally weird with
It just feels gnomes and goblins versus gnomes again. It's always steampunk like gadget stuff.
Yeah, like I really liked
RNG Stone.
Yep.
Are you like Dan right now, Ryan? Are you like personally financially funding Hearthstone like Dan is financially funding Star Citizen?
Not at all. Like I bought One Night in Karzan and League of Explorers in August with real money, so that was like $50, and then I put like $10 in packs when BioShock didn't work, so I streamed Hearthstone on Sunday. But apart from that, like I've basically just been grinding in-game gold to get ready for the expansion. So I recognize that not a lot of people are super into Hearthstone right now, but expansions are always good times to get back in, and I hope that they have a pre-order bonus as well, which would be nice.
I always feel like the more expansions that come out for Hearthstone, the harder it is for me to ever get back into it.
It was to a point, but not anymore because of standard. So, like, if you want to play Wild, you're fucked because you're missing out on like 4 expansions that everybody can play from except you. But when it comes to standard, like, there's good times to get in, and rotation is a good time to get in, but that doesn't happen until early next year.
Were you like me when you saw the flavor text that said create a custom spell? Your mind just started racing with the possibilities. I didn't realize they were going to have like the criteria that you have to follow along with it. It was going to be something like, spawn 1 Varian Rin and eliminate 8 of the characters in your opponent's deck.
Well, like the first thing when I saw it, I was like, oh, that's really cool. And the second thing was like, oh, everyone's going to rope when they play this card. Everyone's going to take 45 seconds to be like, oh, what fits into my curve amazingly right now?
You say everyone's going to rope?
Yeah, it's the Hearthstone lingo, man.
It's Hearthstone lingo for taking the maximum amount of time possible to do your turn.
I thought you used it like skeet.
Let me know when you're going to be on the battlefields of Gwent, sir. That's where I'll be.
No, but we're not going to get into
For
that.
the love of God.
But people who don't play Hearthstone very much are all like, I'm super excited for Gwent. Gwent is like 10 times more pay to win than Hearthstone is right now.
And you can't say that until it releases. It needs a lot of work.
You can totally say it because they're taking your money right now.
Yeah, for those who are, but not everybody can jump in. It's a closed beta.
Right, and as of right now, not everybody can be grifted. But I'm sure that they'll probably come out with dailies or something like that right now. But right now, Hearthstone, it's conceivable to build a collection for free. And Gwent is very, very, very difficult. You have to be good enough at the game to consistently win with only basic cards against people who have legendaries. And like 45% of the cards, or 45% of the cards in Gwent right now are epics or legendaries. But anyway. And Hearthstone is surprisingly less pay to win than a lot of CCGs out there right now.
That's Blizzard's new info on Gwent. Covering here on this show for you. Let's move past BlizzCon 2016. I think we're about done there, right? Anything that we missed, Sin, that you noted, or I think we covered it all, right?
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
All right.
I mean, no Diablo 4, so.
So we're all just bitterly disappointed.
Good dudes.
And no revitalization of Project Titan.
Yeah, it's called Overwatch.
That's true.
There you go. Steam will soon require devs to use actual in-game screenshots as opposed to promotional materials. Or anything like that. So we talked about this briefly last week. The possibility that Steam would have new rules put in place due to the investigation by that was an unrelated thing, wasn't it? Yeah, that was the Washington Gambling Committee or something about the.
There was like an investigation into someone filed a complaint or something.
Oh, it's the No Man's Sky stuff. That's right.
The
Yes.
UK advertising commission or ethical advertising commission.
Because if you go to No Man's Sky's sales page right now, they still have like the promotional material from like the E3 announcement.
Oh, okay.
The game looks nothing like that.
So that was the story we were discussing the other week. I think it might have even been last week about
there was a story about No Man's Sky.
Yeah, it's just shockingly, I know. It's like the advertising standards agency. I'm pretty sure is the one that were investigating No Man's Sky for the actual store page listing. And it turns out that Steam will more than likely be maybe not taking action, but at least, recommending to people to cover their own asses that, okay, now you need to make sure that, according to our guidelines, you are uploading screenshots that represent your actual in-game product. this is good news overall, I think, for just about everybody, I'd say.
Yeah, I don't see a problem with it.
I will say that the statement that Valve has released just says, we ask that any images you upload to the screenshot section of your store page should be screenshots that show your game. So it's not like, I know the headlines are like, developers must now use in-game screenshots, but it's kind of like they've left themselves some ambiguity to be like, you know, you might be able to not do that. And like, I think that's kind of unfortunate. Like, I feel like that should almost be in the terms of service or something if you're a developer releasing a game on Steam. But at least it's a step in the right direction.
The leeway is just because they can't basically watch every single game that they let through at this point, right? So they just have to put something in there so they can not be held accountable when that gets through.
Yeah, and I mean, we kind of have to just say that about everything regarding Steam's terms of service at this point, right? There's no way that they can police all the content that's being put up at this point. So,
well, there was a way. They kind of took that away, though.
Well, which way are you talking about?
Before they opened the floodgates and let everody put stuff on Steam, when they actually approved them. But grass is always greener, right? We always said that in the other direction before.
That's an interesting.
There's a middle ground, man. There's a middle ground that they just never explored.
Yeah.
I think, we had, of course, Greenlight's freshman year, which I think was a pretty good utilization of the model, right? Like, we only had probably... It was exciting when games were coming out of Greenlight. Like, I remember on this show, we were talking about, here's the batch of Greenlight titles that came out this week. And they generally were of a fairly high quality because they got through the community submission process. But now it's all just sort of an open market.
Well, for 3 months, they did 10 games a month, 15 games a month. And then after that, they were like, here's 100 games a month.
Yeah.
And then after that, they were kind of like, if you get through Greenlight, you can come through whenever. We were not going to gate it and then release it. I mean, even 15 games a month is like a game every other day. I think that's pretty significant. But then 100 or 150 games a month is 5 games a day. That's actually crazy.
It's insane.
For the original conversation point about Valve saying, they suggest doing actual in-game footage. I feel like that's Valve trying to distance themselves from any. They're sort of future-proofing their policies now, because it's the way that I look at it is that they're saying, sort of like a semi-concerned parent telling you, I don't suggest you to put this fork inside of the electrical socket. So I'm just going to say, try not to do that. Sure. But I'm not going to stop you because I'm not you're not going to learn anything from it. But I'm also not going to take responsibility. That's how I kind of perceive that readout until they take a hardline stance on that to say you must show something that is from this build of the game and you must update it. That's how I'm always going to kind of perceive Valve, as the somewhat not so concerned parent of a kid who's up to no good,
Sure.
They're not going to bring any discipline around it. And I think that's where most of the underlying problem has for consumers, but that's just how I look at it from my point of view.
Yeah.
The crux of the story was essentially people asking, okay, so now can we trust the screenshots we see on the Steam pages? The answer is still no.
Yeah, the answer is
unfortunately,
no.
yeah.
Yeah, because they're not forcing anyone to do that. So it's well, we did all we could. We told them we suggest that you do this. If they don't do it, it's not my fault. And I really hope that they take a harder stance on that. So you would have thought they would have done it after this whole debacle, but apparently not. So it is the right step in the direction, though. I will say that.
They've at least, they went to the effort of changing it themselves to, at least set a good example moving forward, right? They did it with the Dota 2 page where they pointed out that they were using promotional art at first and then changed it over to reflect their new policy. So they're going to that length at least, but you're right in that, there's very very little in the past that would indicate they plan on, really enforcing this to a great degree.
Yeah, we haven't seen any evidence to the contrary yet, so there's no reason to believe that this is going to change much officially anyway. But hopefully they'll get more pro-consumer with stuff going down the line. But I'll let TB comment on that because he does it way better than me.
Sure.
At least this is an indication that, I'm not going to blame it all on No Man's Sky, but an indication that from experiences like that, at least Valve is learning a little bit.
I would say No Man's Sky is probably the highest profile game to have lied as outwardly as they have. I have plenty. I mean, I went to fucking battle against that damn fucking zombie survival game.
Oh yeah, the Dead Linger.
The Dead Linger over the shit that they were doing.
Yeah.
That was that was an awful couple months, but they were doing the same thing. They were just showing fake screenshots and all this other shit. But because they were a very small indie game, no one gave a shit.
Yeah.
And I think this is the biggest game to have done it, to really bring it to the public eye. But it's been going on in early access games or small indie games that are just trying to turn a profit as quickly as they can before they disappear for the longest time.
One of the
the lesson they probably learned, it has nothing to do with being pro-consumer. It's probably just they don't want to get sued when somebody screws this up for somebody else.
they don't want to get investigated by the advertising standards
Yeah.
agency, right?
Yeah. Of course, it's Valve looking
Now-
out for Valve.
That might just kind of be the end of that.
What's there's just another little interesting note too that I saw here, in that there's a lot of those, especially I think the indie devs that will like use a screenshot slot to show off, like specs or like product descriptions, that kind of stuff, which I think is just very bizarre too. But I guess
They got plenty of room for that underneath.
yeah, I mean, like you got the whole store page to do shit like that. I don't know why you're using that precious space. I don't know. Maybe they have like an unlimited amount of slots for screenshots, but yeah.
I will say, like, it's kind of interesting to think about other repercussions this could have. Like, I mean, we saw at BlizzCon the Mean Streets of Gadgetzan trailer is not really showing gameplay. It's just showing artist renditions of like the aesthetics and the atmosphere and the theme of the set. So stuff like that is accepted as promo material on Steam right now. When you go to like a game store page, you'll usually get like a bull shot that doesn't necessarily contain in-game footage. It could just be a teaser. It could just be teasing the art of the game. It's not actually showing gameplay. So, I feel like for me personally, stuff like that is okay, but maybe other people do feel that that's misleading. And, the only thing that should be up there is actual in-game footage, not artistically edited or put together, just kind of like, here's a slice of gameplay that you can see for yourself in video or picture form.
I mean, I feel like it comes down to how it's presented, though, not exactly the context of what's contained in what would sometimes kind of be perceived as promotional material. Like, if I see something from Hearthstone, I'm going to understand that, okay, I know that Hearthstone is not a wide open area where I get to drive around in a car sort of thing. But like if a game like No Man's Sky comes out and says, oh, you can also do this, here's a video of what you can do, and then have that being completely false, I think that's something totally different. But if it's presented as sort of like a teaser trailer, I hope that I'm not out of bounds by saying that I would think the common gamer consumer would believe that, oh, yeah, this is probably not just a fade in, fade out game of showing the title. There's probably gameplay behind it. I understand that this is a teaser. I'm not going to judge anything off of this except get possibly hyped. So I think it's more about presentation than what actually is contained in the promo stuff.
Well, what you're kind of equating it to is the kids' television ads for action figures from the 90s, where the Ninja Turtles would actually become animated and they would kick things and throw their sides and shoot pizzas out of their car. But that doesn't necessarily map properly to video games because there aren't really boundaries to it the way there are with reality. You can't say, well, I understand action figures don't do X and Y. With video games, they literally can do anything.
Yeah.
So if it's the first time you've seen Hearthstone, why wouldn't you know that it's not a game about driving around a car?
Because it's for a trading card game.
You know that as of other contexts, though. Like, if all your exposure was just that teaser trailer, why would you know that? So, like,
but
why wouldn't you want to cut down on that? And I'm not saying that you're necessarily completely wrong or anything, but there is a little bit of a false equivalency in my mind.
But if that's the first time you've ever heard of Hearthstone, chances are it's not going to be the last time you ever hear of Hearthstone. If you're that interested in it, I mean, like you just said, like if you're that interested in it but you haven't heard of it before, chances are you're going to want to try to follow up on what you've just seen, and then you realize, oh, it's not actually what I saw on that one trailer for promotion stuff. Like, it's actually a card game.
Yeah, I think it might be a little misguided, because I wonder if we're getting to a conclusion here that perhaps Steam ought to be a little bit more responsible for the promotional material found within the trailers as well, which I don't know if I'd necessarily want to even allow them that, jurisdiction. I think the trailers, generally speaking, are, kind of given a little bit of leeway as far as their ability to kind of oversell the product. I know No Man's Sky, we can point at that again and say, well, their trailers are all full of bullshit. You know, like it's got all the E3 trailer especially. Where the hell's all that stuff, right? But I don't know. I don't know if it necessarily holds the same weight as the screenshots, even though that it's just a series of moving screenshots, I guess, ultimately.
I have issues. Like, I don't know, man. Like, I have issues. I don't have issues with teaser trailers that are artistically directed and cut to be like fun bits of story for that maybe not necessarily show proper gameplay. But when you show me a trailer and in the top left, and it says in-game actual footage, which again, No Man's Sky did, and then the game comes out and then none of that is in the game. Not only that, but you still leave that actual in-game footage trailer up on the Steam page. Mm-hmm. That's where my issue is. Because promoting it as the game when it's not actually the game.
Yeah.
There's a difference between the game and in-engine.
Correct.
And even still, if you wrote in-engine, people would make that jump anyway. You have to actually be clear about what you're literally going to be able to buy versus promotional materials that aren't representative.
Yeah.
And that line gets blurred all the time.
I agree with that for sure. I want to make the note that, like, I'm totally fine with the Hearthstone Mad Streets of Gadgetstan trailer, for example. Like, that's something that I consider is just, you know, like, I see that and I think to myself, oh yeah, this is not really like trying to show me what I'm doing. It's just trying to get me excited about the product.
It's all about presentation.
Yeah.
It's not presented as in-game or in-engine footage. It's just given. It's just advertising.
Yeah, and I'm just trying to say, like, I don't ever want to get to the point where Steam or Valve are wondering whether or not they actually need to police that sort of stuff on their store pages, right? I don't want to suggest that we shouldn't let promo materials like that on the store page because they would be misguiding. I don't think that's necessarily true.
Well, yeah, I was just going a step back further and saying I don't know about if context makes sense to just expect people to understand the context of what the game is about, the genre and all these things, and then just without having any other information, just go, oh, well, I understand this doesn't fit within the realm of that game.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think you're onto something there. There's, I don't know if I could find, like, a very good example of it, but I think I get what you're getting onto, at least.
The No Man's Sky thing is just a much, much more specific example of that, where the line is much closer to reality versus the craziness I was talking about with the action figures.
I think the reason we're so able to just, like, constantly refer back to No Man's Sky, because it's, I guess, recency bias, and we've all just been hearing nothing but No Man's Sky for the past few months, but also just because it really was such a stark example of an overpromised and then underdelivered product. Like, it hits all the nails on the head. It's just like everything that you can do wrong in trying to sell an audience honestly is presented in the way that they handled things. Not to just totally take a giant dump down Hello Games' throat every single week, but it keeps happening, doesn't it? There we go.
That's this hot dog shooter in the Northwest.
I think I missed that one. What?
The video is weird.
It was from an NLSS.
Oh, wait, are you talking... Wait, is that there's like a dude...
He said take a dump down his throat. I was just making an equivalency to the hot dog shooter in the Northwest.
Is that the dude that, like, sucks hot dogs into his throat?
Sucks them into his windpipe and sucks them out.
It depends. How quickly does he shoot them out?
Because
we could be talking about, like, the second through infinite best hot dog shooter in the Northwest. This specifically is the best hot dog shooter in the Northwest. Maybe, I don't know, I ain't ever seen anybody who can do this.
What was the sound that it made, Ryan?
Oh, that's Rob. That's Rob's wheelhouse.
Rob knows voices.
Theirs is pretty good as well, actually.
I can't do it, man. It makes me choke.
It's like an inverted hiccup.
Yeah. Yeah, it's freaky, man. I fucking let that video roll, and I was just scrolling down, and I was just hearing that sound for like 10 or 15 seconds. Just him going.
It's like a bit out of South Park, honestly.
Yeah, a little bit. All right. Moving on that, we're going to talk briefly about Ubisoft's 30th birthday celebration, which has been going on for the last few months or so. If you've been missing out on it, they've been giving away free games. So you should be aware of it. This month's free one in particular is Blood Dragon. Far Cry Blood Dragon. If you've never played it, it's free. You can just go to club.ubisoft.com. You can get it. It's awesome.
Cool.
It's just
I never played it.
It's just a PSA for everybody. I played, I think, like an hour or two. It's good. It's exactly what people have told you about it, probably. It's just a crazy retro 80s Far Cry. It's about exactly the same gameplay as Far Cry 3. Nothing really changes that much apart from like the weapons you use and that kind of stuff. And you're fighting futuristic laser dragons, and it's pretty cool.
Laser dragon. Northern Lion, he's so excited he had to leave the room to go get a coffee right now.
I know, it was great. Games that they've included in the Ubisoft Turns 30 celebration before this include Beyond Good and Evil, Rayman Origins, Splinter Cell. Which Splinter Cell is that? That looks like... I can't tell. One of them. And then Prince of Persia Sands of Time. So good stuff. Of course, lots of...
Probably Double Agent.
Yeah.
That one's just old enough now.
But yeah, they've just been releasing the Ubisoft classics. Hard to argue with free, though, so there you go.
Yeah, I mean, don't think it's just an act of goodwill. They just want you to install Uplay. That's really all it is.
Yeah, I'm actually 100% in agreement with Nick in that this is just sort of an underhanded way to get people
Nick
to sign
is
up for
onto him.
Uplay.
They're just using their anniversary to try and make you get into their stupid ecosystem.
But it's a
The
free
thing is,
game!
It is a free game.
I think it's good.
Free games
Free games
for them.
All right, that's all for that. Finding Paradise was just announced.
Put up a parking lot.
So I still don't know whether to say this is a sequel to the Moon or just the second episode in the To the Moon series. I think that's actually how they officially have it listed. But this is more or less going to be the second To the Moon game. So pretty excited about that, actually, personally. More or less takes place in the same world as well, or that's what it sounds like. It's the same characters from the first game, too. So, Nick, you excited, man? You gonna play this one, too?
Maybe.
Yeah.
In 4 years after release.
Yeah, I'm gonna need like 10 years to get over the first one before I
man.
think about doing another. Could they even go somewhere as sad as the first one? I almost doubt it.
It's weirdly, I think that might be the thing that a lot of the fans are asking is like, is it going to be as sad, if not sadder?
And is that then the theme of their series? These are games that will always make you cry. Or is that just the exception in the first one? I don't know.
Ryan, did you have an emotional response the first time you played To the Moon?
Yeah, To the Moon is like, it's real sad, but I sort of feel like that's what you want, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you played it through and you're like, oh, this isn't emotionally devastating, then it's just kind of like an okay RPG Maker game. Like the theme of his games is that they're devastating in that same level. Like Bird Story is exactly the same way. Kind of like the story that happens in between To the Moon and the sequel. What's it called again?
Finding Paradise.
Finding Paradise. That's right. So I think the fact that it destroys you is kind of what you're looking for. And if it doesn't, you're like, I mean, you're sure as hell not playing it for the mechanics.
Yeah.
Like, I hope.
Yeah, and based on the name being Finding Paradise, I'm pretty sure it's going to be sad.
That's a safe bet, I think. It's one of those.
Yeah, good dudes.
Somebody's dying.
But just think, Nick, if you wait for like another 10 years, Diablo 4 will be out. Then you can balance out your sadness with
I was gonna make the joke. I was gonna say there's a
put
sure
money on
bet.
Yeah, I'll put money on it.
There's
Would
a
you
sure
put
bet.
$100 on Diablo not coming out until 2012 or 2020? Till 2012, yeah.
I'll put money down that we will not hear or see anything about Diablo 4 for the rest of this decade.
All right, I'll take that.
But only with Nick.
What do you get? Oh, all right. Jeez.
Bear, I'll put up a nice cool glass of Madrinas.
Thanks.
First.
Yeah.
Cool and funky.
You know, I need
Yeah.
more of those. I don't have a fridge full of them.
They actually contacted me. They're going to send me some samples. They said that as a non-coffee drinker, I might actually like it.
Man,
So,
if only you would give me this natural segue a month from now, it would be brilliant. We'll bring you back later.
We don't know what you're talking about.
I'm good here for unnatural segues about Diablo 4 Madrinas.
Thank you
Just
very
have
much.
me on.
At this moment, we are not sponsored by Madrinas,
That's correct.
except for Bear.
Except for Bear.
You can go to fuck it. This is my show. You can go to madrinascoffee.com/shop. Use code Bear Coffee,
Oh,
50%
Lord.
off.
Just trying to make it less complicated to understand what the hell's going on.
All right, Finding Paradise is coming out summer of 2017. Just got announced this week. It's exciting, fun stuff. EVE Online's going free to play. Sam, will you tell me more about that?
Yeah, Eve, after 13, 14 billion years, is finally going to be switching up their paid policies that you're going to be able to do it free to play. They've got 2 different clone states. One of them is the alpha state, which is going to be the free to play model, and then I believe it's called Omega state is what everyone gets right now for the subscription. And it's a good idea. Of course, there is going to be some limiters in there. Skills will be training at a slightly slower rate, is what CCP says, not me. And for any of you who've actually played EVE, you know that nothing goes by a fast rate there, unless if you're actually doing like warp travel and that sort of thing. So, but I think it's all around good. I believe that this will bring EVE like kind of like a new crop of fresh players. But until they take a serious look at actual in-game mechanics, and I don't know what else is going to be coming around for this upcoming expansion. I think going free to play will help, but it's certainly not going to. I don't know how enticed new players are going to be once they realize how long everything takes.
Yeah.
That was my biggest problem, and that's what holds me back, because I don't mind paying money for a game that I enjoy. It's just that the amount of time that you have to invest into EVE to get anywhere is unbelievably ridiculous. So, the fact that they're giving people, you can create as many accounts as you want for free, I think that's great, but I'm gonna hold myself to make any judgments on the next expansion until we actually get more, because they've been kind of cryptic about it.
Of course, this trailer says on the bottom in-game footage. That's perfect.
It's not a screenshot.
Yeah, man, it's the real deal.
Yeah.
So I kind of want to discover the EVE history of the group real fast before we go any further here.
I've played it a few times. EVE will always be that game that I wish I had discovered after the collapse of Star Wars Galaxies. Mm-hmm. I feel like during that time in my life where I did nothing but play MMOs, and I was really looking for a sandbox MMO to replace the one that had just failed, EVE would have been perfect for me. But at this point, it's going to be that game that I always wish I had time for, because I really love like the political intrigue between players, the idea of the devs creating this world, and then just stepping back and saying, all right, players, you do what you want with it, have fun. And just, these players creating these empires and warring and alliances and trade deals. They're these industries that, one of the big wars that just happened, a few months ago with the Goon Swarm Federation and all that, one of the biggest reasons they lost is because they fucked over one of the people that was supplying them with most of their, I think, money or something like that. And that industry went and financed the war on the other side. And one of the big reasons they ended up losing a lot of their land is because the money went from one spout to another and fed the rebellion, allowing them to pump out ships at a faster rate. That stuff like completely interests me, but I don't have the time to get into that. It's like 8 hours a day, every day. There are people who do EVE as like a living. It's crazy.
EVE is always the most interesting game you'll ever hear about that you're never going to play.
Yeah.
Like, it's got all the cool stories, it's got all the intrigue, all the diplomacy and all that, and like you said, people treat it like it's their full-time jobs a lot of the time, but it's just the investment of time.
Yeah, it's the emerging storylines that we hear about in the news. That's what people really tune into, and
seeing those battles happen.
Yeah, and you're like, hey, I want to be there. I think I can handle this as a challenge. And the game is challenging. It's also extremely rewarding, but it is a huge time sink. And I actually have contacts with CCP, and I've given them feedback on how I didn't like. They did a revamp about a year and a half ago, long story short, and they're like, hey, you can pick one of 3 roles. You can be a miner, an explorer, or you can be a bounty hunter or a security agent, something like that. It's like, okay, great. So I was like, just to do a stream, I was like, I'm going to become a miner, and my goal is to make enough ISK to where I can pay for my first month subscription. I got stopped after 2 hours because I had to wait 4 days for me to train the proper mining skills. And I told them that. I said, if you guys want to get players to stick around, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Like, you have to at least let them do what they want at the beginning, and then give them the option of like, hey, if you want advanced skills, here you go. But this was just like at the start. Like, I was a new player wanting to be a miner, but I can't because I'm held behind a huge, ridiculously long time sink. So I hope that they're doing something with the new expansion, but we don't have a whole lot of information on that, so I can't really say.
It's really weird that their idea of leveling up isn't based on like you doing things. Leveling up is just literally clicking a button and waiting.
Yep.
That is how you level up. You just wait, and
That
it does it by itself.
I mean, that's what they were, but they were kind of touting that as the biggest advantage of playing EVE over modern MMOs back then, was that you level up without even logging in the game. It's like, okay, that sounds great, but it still takes 2 real weeks for me to get the next level for the ship that I want. It's like, unless you make alts or you're just playing another game, no new casual player is going to want to ever try even attempt that.
And there are certain professions in the game that are actually just not feasible. Like if you want to make like a living within the game, not like an actual living, but have enough money. Like bounty hunter in the game has always been like, for me, playing space MMOs or open world space games, I'd love to finally have a space game that does bounty hunter right. And the only game that ever kind of did it right was Star Wars Galaxies. I remember trying to be a bounty hunter in EVE, and it's just not feasible. Like, it's not that fun. You don't make a ton of money doing it. Like, you can do it, but you make more money being a miner. You make more money joining a corp and just being like a frontline soldier for a corp. There's just things that you're just like, why would I? Like, another one is, I think, like you can make drugs in EVE, and it's relatively profitable, but there's 1,000 different ways you can make better money.
Yeah, that's the skill injectors that you can do now, where you can basically level up a skill and then sell it, so where people can inject it like immediately. So it's for the players who already have a bunch of extra skills that they don't have any value for. They can sell it to someone, say, for example, a person who wants to be a miner, and they'll pay a couple billion ISK for it, and that'd be that. But I mean, EVE will always have that issue of not being friendly to newer players until they take a drastic approach to revamping many of the systems in the game from the ground up. I mean, I really truly love EVE. I've had a lot of fun playing it over the past couple of years. But that being said, the fact that I can say I played the game for about 2.5 years and still don't know what the hell is going on or how to play most of the aspects of it should speak at how legendarily epic the amount of time that you have to sink in to get any enjoyment. But it is a very fun game, and I'd recommend playing it, especially since it's free now.
There's some fun. It's one of those games that there's some fun horror stories of new players going out and exploring wormholes and then just be permanently lost in wormhole space. Like, I'm lost and now I can't get home and I'm stuck. Yep. That stuff's cool to me, but I don't have the time.
That's terrible game design, isn't it?
I mean, like, you understand, like, if you're going and exploring wormhole space, there's like, the game does warn you, like,
okay,
going into wormhole space.
And to be fair, if you do go there, most likely, if you're going to any nullsec space, you're going to get killed by another player. So you're not going to get lost there.
Yeah, once you leave any security space and head to, like you said, nullsec, players just fucking tear your ass.
You will get destroyed, and you'll get ported back to wherever your home station is. But like from what Mathis was saying, for example, for bounty hunting, is that if you work for one faction too long, you'll actually create an unwinnable situation with another faction that will continuously come after you and try to kill you when you're just trying to do out missions and stuff. So you have to be careful because it limits the amount of stations that you can go to. So I mean, it's like you can start up and then join, like there's actually a beginner's fleet discussion, like chat channel, that they're like, hey, you should join this corps and you can get like some
brave newbies.
Yeah, brave newbies. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
But going past that, I'm interested to see what they do with the expansion, to see if they make it any friendlier to newer players or those who are playing free to play who want to check out and maybe take it to the next level of it.
They definitely need to, like chat saying, they need to overhaul the UI a little bit, because it is like looking at goddamn like you're in a spaceship and just it's layout in front of you. Like, I don't know what half these buttons do.
I thought you were in a spaceship.
Yeah, I thought that was maybe the appeal to it, is that you wouldn't know what half the buttons do, right?
Man, you boot up a game and there's like 17,000 buttons to press and you don't know which one you're supposed to press.
You look for the device. I did that shit with Northern Lights. It's pretty easy. My impression of EVE was always that it was like the game for people who hang out on the dark net. Like, if you're a computer hacker and you wear like a low brim hat and a trench coat all day, and you're like, I'm going to play the MMO that suits my style of life.
Yeah.
So you get on EVE and you risk your entire life savings and your family's, your house.
That's
to
a fucking
win a global civilization war between two factions.
You just made a movie plot, not an EVE player, man. That sounds
awesome.
It's
called The Matrix.
Oh, yeah, I guess so.
I've never played or seen really much of anything of EVE. I only just hear the stories when they crop up on Reddit that's like, this actual company has gone out of business because ISK changed currency I don't know what the stories are, but they just don't even make sense to me. That I can't relate to them on a human level.
Yeah.
So Eve exists in this other dimension over here where Eve stuff happens, and I'm over here in human world.
One of the things that Mathis was talking about was that there was a leader of one of the main corporations that actually took basically the guild bank and went to a different corporation altogether. That was one of the sparks. And then the place that he left started paying like a mercenary corp to fight in the war for them because they lost a lot of people. And they just decided to stop doing it because they weren't paying enough. So the emergent storylines are way better than the actual gameplay.
Yeah.
But I still enjoy Eve. I don't play it anymore, but I would love to play it again. It's not friendly for time.
Oh, the chat said I'm not that wrong.
Really, yeah. Really are not that wrong.
I always got the impression of Eve that it's like, you know, you go see a movie and you're like, well, that's awesome. I'd love to like write scripts. I want to be a screenwriter. And then the actual process of screenwriting is like this monotonous, like sitting in a coffee shop. Oh, you know, enter screen left, right? You go, this is boring. Like the emerging gameplay and the stories that come out of it are awesome. But what you see that like the volcano erupting, what you don't see is like 10,000 people putting in 15 hours a week for like 6 years to make that actually happen.
Yeah.
And I'm happy. Like I don't need to know how the sausage is made. I'll just eat the sausage. That's fine by me.
Yeah,
So like the odds of me playing
What are we talking about? Volcanoes and sausage?
Yeah.
the odds of me playing continue to be basically zero. But it's nothing against anybody who does. You know,
You think about it. You get what, 1, maybe 2 big Eve stories a year. And
Yeah.
those months of quiet because it's all the politics that are just bubbling over the course of months that lead to that war.
Although,
Yeah, man,
admittedly, it's not like we're all like hanging around waiting for Eve stories to drop, right? It only really shows up on our radar when the big, massive scale battles happen.
You know, we're all hanging around the Eve subreddit just waiting
Yeah.
for that spark that we need to see the next war.
But I agree with you, Ryan, in that I was trying to bounce around a metaphor for it too. I don't know, like maybe I like watching the NFL every Sunday, but I don't really want to, you know, participate in the practice drills and sit down with the coaches and discuss schematics and that kind of stuff, even though
yeah, exactly.
I would love to have a 6-pack. I'm sure it would look great on me, but
All the work
I
involved.
started that working out, boy, and let me tell you, that's for the dogs.
Woof.
explain if you could a little bit more about the clone states for me, if you could, because I'm not 100% clear on that at the moment.
So basically the alpha clone state will allow you're going to get a very simplified version of the new player experience. If you want to do mining, they will put you down a path that they give you a mining ship, they give you the skills that you can do, and you are not limited. You can go anywhere that you want. You can still train skills, but at a certain point you get limited by the amount of ships that you can get into because of the fact that they limit your skills.
Okay.
So the Omega clone state is basically the unlimited content. But you can still, in the free to play version, you can still do whatever you want. If you want to do security missions, if you want to do bounty hunting, PvP, mining, exploration, you can do all that stuff. But you are eventually going to hit a wall where you won't be able to progress realistically without putting in some extra time and possibly money, because the fact that they say the skills are going to train slightly lower really scares or slightly slower really scares me, because they already trained super slow.
Right, yeah.
Scares me too, man. I'm with you.
Yeah, I'm shivering over here. I need a sausage volcano to warm me up.
Definitely. Since Civ 6 came out, and I've been playing their online speed quite a bit, even when I'm not playing multiplayer, I've just been playing single player at that online speed. I've found that I definitely prefer it, and I wonder if Eve would maybe benefit from... I know this is a lot more complex than this, but just, like, slash it all in half, right? Like, take a bunch of time off the requirements of what you need to do. Would that help it?
Yeah, it definitely would. It would make me more interested into it. I mean, again, I can't make any judgment because I know that they've got other stuff in the works for the expansion. We haven't heard anything. I'm hoping that they go that direction. The fact that the alpha clone states actually have a simplified tree to say, if you want to do mining immediately, like today, and you get through the tutorial, here's your ship, here's what you need to know, go out there and start mining. That's exactly what they've needed for years. So they're going in the right direction. Whether or not that's going to translate to other systems down the road, who knows? But hopefully.
So when you're in Eve and you're waiting for the mining skill to level up, what other just sort of rudimentary tasks are you doing? What else is there available to actually do, I guess?
Mathis, want to take this one? I feel like I've been talking too much.
I mean, the thing is, Eve is everything you want it to be or nothing. It depends on what you want to do. Like, you can go out and do NPC missions in something called ratting, where you go out and kill NPC pirates for money. You can go out and join a noob corps, and like Brave Newbies, one of the things they do is, like, I don't know if they do it every night, but at least once a week, they take all their newbies into a fleet and they patrol nullsec and get
kill them.
And they get into fights with other players. Like, they find other players, they just get into fights.
Oh yeah.
You can go out and do, like I said, mining if you really want. You can do a lot of different things. You can play the Vegeta Market, which is just if you're really
Vegeta Market.
But Vegeta over 9,000. Vegeta is like the main trade hub.
Yeah.
And you can just go play the market if you want, if that's like your thing. So Ryan would probably be really into like just playing the market because numbers.
But to answer Bear's question, if you pick mining and you're waiting to skill up your mining skill, unless you have another ship to do all that stuff we're talking about from what I know, there's very little that you can really do.
Yeah, if you don't have a ship or you don't have insurance on your ship and you lose your ship, you're done. You can't do anything until you have money.
Yeah. So I'm hoping that they give you like a base set of like an exploration ship, a ship that's capable of at least doing some sort of fighting along with mining. Because if you're waiting like 3 or 4 days, which is my original complaint to them, that I was like, if I'm a new player, I want to go mine immediately, I have to wait until that actually happens.
Sinvicta, can you tell me about the inflation of ISK over the last 10 years? I want to know more.
Speaking about ratios from volcanoes to sausage, it's gone down about approximately...
I'm taking this seriously. I want to know about the market inflation.
No, I'm serious. I want to know about this stuff.
I never played the
serious.
Serious?
Playoffs?
I want to play Eve, but I know that I don't.
No, you don't.
I know. I'm saying like every part of me is telling me you're not going to enjoy this, but there's still the little bit that's like, yeah, but what if it's so cool? What if you enjoy it?
You can get a 21-day free trial from any player, unrestricted. Go ahead.
Yeah, you'll enjoy it. I mean, you make your own. It's not one of those you make your own fun, but you'll find fun like sort of deriving from like a lot of places you didn't really expect. Like if you find like a rare ore that you can get, and then turn it around and flip it. But the financial aspect, I never played the markets. I'm not good at auction house stuff, so but there's a whole separate game within a game with the markets and stuff. You can make some serious money.
Can you refer me to anyone who knows more about the markets?
Mathis does.
All right. I'll talk to Mathis.
All right.
Mathis, tell me about the
We
markets.
don't have to talk about Eve anymore. We can move on.
I'm sorry. I'm just having fun with it because I had no idea you guys were this into Eve. It's just really taken back.
Like a fascinating game, but
Yeah.
I understand.
I haven't played in months, to be fair. So.
We've only ever talked about it in passing. I've always been curious to dive into it further, but I guess
It came out 14 years ago.
I know. It's got a big story today. It's the only reason. All right.
Fun game.
I got it. Off we go. Hitman! Season 2 confirmed by IO Interactive. I may be the only one that's played it still. Is that true?
I played like the first 2 missions.
Okay.
So I've seen one.
And then Sin?
Hitman.
Hitman. All right. Season 2 is confirmed will include new locations, elusive targets, all the same stuff you've come to know and love from Hitman. I want to talk just a little bit, though, about Hitman's episodic releases, because personally I think they've worked really well. And I know that there was quite a bit of skepticism about it when they first announced it. In fact, we talked about it on the show regarding how they wanted to actually put the episodes out. And I think it's been a surprising success. And I don't know whether that really can be attributed to the episodic model, but I think it mostly comes down to the fact that they were able to focus on each mission as though it was like an independent release. So that it played to its strengths quite a bit, I mean, each episode is still $10, so I guess in a manner of speaking, they are their own games if you want to look at it that way. But there's a lot of depth, a lot of different strategy involved with every single mission, and there's a lot of detail too. It's one of the best Hitman games I've played. It's terrific. Mathis, similar feelings?
I don't know. Like, I'm probably in the minority, but like the fact that they split it up into episodes was a big reason I never continued to play it after the first or second episode. I liked Absolution because it was a game that I could sit down and play through, and I actually played through all of Absolution. There was a fun story there. There's a weird disconnect for me with this season 1 and the episodes because I don't feel like there's a story being told. I know there is. It doesn't take it. It feels more goofy than Absolution did, or even Blood Money. It feels very goofy, and I don't really want to play the levels over and over and over again to do the different strategies. Like, I'll play through a level, I'll beat it, and I'm like, all right, I'm done. I don't care that much. And I just haven't had the urge to go back and play the other 3 or 4 episodes that are out now.
Yeah. No, I totally empathize with the fact that the story being disconnected makes it a little bit of an issue, and I don't think that was for me personally, it definitely wasn't a driving force for playing the next episodes. I was mostly just curious about the new setting and the new targets and what they would have us do, and I think there was enough variety in the levels that it made me want to go back and play them. I guess it didn't have as much of an effect for you, but I think they created enough different paths, enough like open world experiences that felt natural, that were, very satisfying. So I played through, I know I did Sapienza a few times. I played Marrakesh. Actually, haven't played Colorado yet, or Hokkaido, the last one, but what I've played has just been really phenomenal. So I've just been really mostly happy with like the quality of the levels, but I will agree that the overall experience was probably a little tainted by the fact that they were doing those episodic releases.
But it does seem like it's been received better than I thought it would. It kind of reminds me of like Far Cry 2, where it kind of has got like a meh reaction from people, but like game devs and critics that I follow on Twitter are like, this is like one of the most slept on games of 2016. And I think that is probably what's guaranteed to happen when you release episodic, when people don't really like that model that much. I mean, even
done so much too recently.
And it also has like always online DRM, which is why predominantly like the negative reviews I saw on Steam were like, game's pretty good, like maybe as good as Absolution or better, but the always online DRM means I can't really recommend it. So I think, largely the people who have played it enjoyed it, but it's hard to motivate people to play it, myself included, because
to keep going back in a month or two. Or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's the thing is like on the one hand, I don't really want to play it until it's a complete game. I don't want to play like an hour of Hitman and then wait a month and then play an hour of Hitman and wait a month. But by the time all the episodes are out, the game is sort of like 6 months old. And I'm like, I can put that off until tomorrow. Like, especially considering it's November now, there's like no sense of urgency for me to actually finish it. And, maybe that's a personal problem, but I think that if it had just come out in a perfect world like 6 months ago, fully realized, I probably would have played it. Whereas right now, I'm like, I can take it or leave it, honestly.
Do you, I know this probably really doesn't mean much to you guys personally, but I think the fact that they actually do allow you to purchase the episodes separately is kind of nice. Like the $60 asking price is still quite a hefty one for a lot of people, and maybe there's just one mission that they wanted to play, and the missions themselves, I mean, one of them, like the first one I think is in Paris, right? And I know that one I put at least 2 hours into, and there were quite a few other objectives that I didn't complete, along with the elusive targets and all that stuff that are mission specific. So there's quite a bit of content, at least, behind every $10 purchase. Do you guys like the model, or it doesn't really impact your buying decisions, I suppose?
I have nothing wrong with the model. I think it's a fine way of putting it forward. I mean, I don't really know, because I don't know what I would do if I had to buy it. I mean, Square Enix provided the copy, so I don't really have that much of a care.
Yeah.
I think it's good that you can buy an episode and be like, is this going to be my style of game? And then you can make your decision from there. That's good. But yeah, I'm just very meh on the episodic thing. I think even Telltale games now, like I'll play the first episode of a Telltale game, and especially like the Batman one, for example. I played the first episode of the Batman Telltale. I'm like, wow, that was actually really good. Like I enjoyed that, but I haven't gone back to play 2 and 3 because I'm just like, I stopped caring.
Yeah. Fair enough.
I feel like
guess.
the novelty's worn off. Like
Yeah.
back when The Walking Dead season 1 came out, you're like, oh, it's really cool to have like a month-long period between episodes, so you can't just like, mainline them all instantly and then be done with it. And it kind of made like The Walking Dead season 1 kind of felt like a bit of a communal experience. Everybody was like getting the episodes at the same time and then talking about them at the same time, as opposed to, someone like on Netflix right now, someone will be like, oh, I finally watched season 1 of Daredevil. And everyone's like, wow, we moved past it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's not the same kind of like critical mass, I suppose. But I don't know. I also think with like so many games coming out these days, you're lucky to get a little slice of the year. Like if people are talking about your game for like a week, that's crazy. That's like one of the biggest games of the year, unless it's No Man's Sky.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
But now it's like take that big push and instead kind of spread it out over like 6 months. I don't know if it really works personally. I still, maybe it's because we're a little bit more old school, but I find myself being like, I would prefer like it's out and then 6 months down the road they release an expansion or something.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah, I see it kind of the way Ryan was just saying, in that it feels a little bit opportunistic from the publisher's point of view, in that they kind of want to grab a whole bunch of little spots of like big push instead of the big push, which means from our perspective we don't get to give it as much time and depth, because we're always supposed to be on waiting on bated breath for the next thing to play, and nobody has time to generally be waiting for the next thing, or nothing is ever as captivating, right? Like a lot of the time you push through the middle of a game to finish it. Often with this type of thing, you just lose enthusiasm.
Yeah.
And it's generally just not interesting enough to promote that style of monetization. So I guess it's cool that you can buy individual levels, but I don't see why you would know you want to buy an individual level till you've already played it.
Yeah.
So just sell the whole thing. And it also means they get to keep it at full price for way longer, since they're selling it episodic, right? Like they're not going to discount the episodes. It's just going to keep it at full price for a year until the whole thing's out.
I wish I'd paid more attention to it, because I wonder if they had actually discounted the past episodes upon the release of a new one. I hope they did, but I would imagine they tried to at least create some sort of bundle incentive every time a new episode came around. But yeah, no, all the points you guys are making are perfectly valid, and I think it is, especially now, it's definitely difficult to hold people's interest longer than a day. Honestly, in a lot of circumstances. I mean, we're at such a fucking rapid pace now. It's like I don't even remember what the big story was 3 days ago, and I know there was one, but
well, Eve went free to play. That was pretty good.
yeah, sure.
I thought that No Man's Sky wasn't delivering on promises. I thought that was the big.
That's still happening. But yeah, you're right in that it's definitely difficult for it to carve out a continued area of audience interest across the year. However, I do still want to say that I was very pleased with the quality of the product that I played, the episodes that I did experience, and I don't know, I just want to give them props, I guess. I mean, I think we set this up to be a failure at the beginning of the year, and I consider the product that they delivered to be of a high quality, so I want to give them kudos.
You know what?
I guess.
You've inspired me to, at least now that I know that the PC version of BioShock doesn't work at all.
Uh-huh.
You've inspired me to at least put this as an option for Subscriber Sunday games.
Okay.
That it seems like, short, a game I probably wouldn't play for myself if I wasn't doing it on a stream, but could have fun with it regardless. I think that could be cool. I mean, I really like that solution.
Soma.
Soma too. No, I think
you would enjoy Soma.
yeah, Soma too. But yeah, I think if you enjoyed Absolution, I think you would definitely enjoy this new Hitman.
For a second, I thought Nick said Blaze It Sombra. I was like,
Blaze It Sombra
Overwatch,
420!
I was like, Nick just killing it over
Yeah,
there.
dog.
100 emoji.
Okay, cool. But yeah, anyway, that's the first season of Hitman. They confirmed a second season to be coming in 2018. It's exciting. I like it. I think people should check it out if you can. Owlboy.
Yeah.
Here it is. Who wants to talk about Owlboy?
I think we all do.
Y'all do. All right. Ryan, you want to tell me about it?
love Owl.
Oh, you okay, Mathis? You got it, man. You take the reins.
No.
You love Owlboy. That's exciting.
No.
No, come on.
Ryan,
All right, Ryan, take it.
Owlboy is a gorgeous 2D action platformer, I guess you would call it. It's kind of, I'm not going to say that it defies characterization, but it's not like, Super Mario World. You're just going like left to right. It's a little bit more like Cave Story with its like it has verticality in its exploration. It's got some kind of like Mega Man-y type areas with boss battles at the end of them as well. But I'm not sure if it's actually a Metroidvania. Maybe someone who's played a little bit more than that can actually.
Metroidvania.
Nick, confirm or deny?
I don't think it is.
No.
Okay. So it's just a platformer with height, basically. Okay. So you play as an owl who is mute, and the owls are kind of like the guardians of this mythical town, and your job is to kind of progress the story. You're bullied and picked on, and it seems like the narrative is kind of, you're gonna get your Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer moment throughout the game where you can prove that you're useful after all, and everybody will hopefully be happy about it in the end. Gorgeous art. Like, this game, for people that don't know the context of it, took like
9 years.
9 years,
Yeah.
something like that, to come out. Like, I've been seeing previews for Owlboy for like forever, basically.
Yeah.
Since before games like, well, maybe not before Braid, but like it's been a long time at least. And certainly before Fez. So like it's been around forever. And the art and music are gorgeous. It has almost like an old school, or at least like 1990s Disney style story. It seems like it's a robust game from a story perspective. And mechanically, I haven't seen all that much of it so far. I've only beaten the first dungeon, which happens pretty early on in the game. But I'm enjoying it so far, and it seems pretty easy to recommend right now.
Mathis, you love it though.
I love Owlboy. No, I'm really, really enjoying my time with it. I'm with Ryan. It's fucking beautiful. The music is awesome. I know Nick and I will disagree in this part, but I really am enjoying the story so far. The way it's been presented has been, I like the idea, like the way they kind of do the game is like dungeon, action, and then segments of story with the characters in between each bit. And I really enjoy the characters so far. They have not really taken any weird cliche twists and turns. I'm excited to see where it's going to go in the future, but I can't complain. Like, the controls really well. Everything feels like the action feels tight. I just like it. It's a really fun game. I put it up there with like Shovel Knight right now so far.
Yeah, I got a really strong Shovel Knight vibe from it.
Not in the way it plays, but in the way I rank it, as in like it's like that old school game with like a lot of modern development, polish, and mentality involved.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not there yet, just because I find that like Shovel Knight it's much smaller in scope, but everything that it does so well. Like, not only is it faithful to the games that it's inspired by, but everything that it does that's innovative is really good as well. And it's like a super tight, polished experience. I will admit, like, as I've been playing Owlboy, there have been some things that have kind of like, I wouldn't say bummed me out, but given me pause. Like, the first dungeon, I was like, I've played a platformer before. This is so easy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the fact that like you're carrying the dude, and the dude his gun locks onto targets, and you're basically just spamming the attack button. Like, first boss, extremely easy.
Yes,
And I think that's fine. I have heard that it gets harder a little later in the game, but I was like, it doesn't start as strong as something like Shovel Knight starts, in my opinion, at least. But that may change, and with a larger scope comes the ability to do things that Shovel Knight, maybe didn't necessarily do as well in its own.
It definitely opens up a lot slower, but eventually you get like instead of just the one guy that shoots the gun, you have 3 people you swap between with different abilities, and it becomes more complex as you go on.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Nick.
Yeah.
You didn't have as fond of feelings for it, though.
Yeah, well, so my thing was that it's a good game. I do appreciate it mechanically for the most part. I think it's a beautiful game, and I think that the time spent was very evident in the visuals and the audio. I do think there's some issues with the controls, though, and the biggest, most glaring one is that the activate button is mapped to the same one as the pick up a character button. And you almost always have a character that you're carrying with you during the game. That's basically your attacks are guns that swap out. And whenever you want to pull something out of the ground, you've got to put down the character somewhere else other than where you want to pick up the thing. Otherwise, you'll grab the character again instead of the thing you're trying to get.
You can make the character disappear, though, and then you can just summon him right back.
Okay, but
like
it's just an extra button press when it could have just been a different button.
Yeah, but it's a lot less. I would say it's a lot less annoying than dropping him and going and picking him up. You press a button, he disappears. You open the door, you press a button, he's back in your claws.
All right. Yeah, I don't know. It just felt really cumbersome to me.
Talons, actually.
Talons.
They're talons. You gotta make sure.
I had
it's an owl.
some issues with the background and foreground looking a bit too similar in some cases, where I had a little trouble differentiating what I was supposed to do. Not because it was complicated, but because I just couldn't read the environment properly. There were these little stovetop pot lids that were stuck in these holes on the side of the walls, and I thought that was just the environment. I didn't know I could interact with that at all. There's also some doors that look like they're in the foreground or background, and they're just not. I don't know. It's just a little shading things that kind of irked me a little bit. I also found the writing to be extremely flat. I really didn't like the characters hardly at all, and there was so much exposition that I just wanted to get to the gameplay, and it felt like you were taking 40 minutes to listen to people talk about stuff that you have nothing to relate to. You come into this town, and it's like, all right, I don't know any of you people. This guy's accosting me for a while, and then I found I have one friend, and then we're off on a journey, and then the town's taken over. It's like, I don't even know who anyone is, and all of a sudden we're in crisis. And it just never really feels fleshed out to me from a story perspective. Again, I think the mechanics and the gameplay elements are fun, but it was distracting how long the story kept going on when I just wasn't really feeling it. So that kind of wore me down to the point where I kind of didn't really want to continue after about 2 hours. I might still do it anyway just to see how it goes later on, but I've heard reviews say it's kind of tedious in the middle, which doesn't really bode well because the whole game's about 8 hours long and I'm about to hit the middle. So I don't know. We'll see.
I can't speak to the story because I've only played the first 45 minutes or so, but I'm echoing most of the positivity and the little bit of negativity as well. I think it's a really solid experience. The pixel art, I'll note that I've been a self-proclaimed against pixel art. Basically, I'm not really digging how often it's propagating our industry, but I will say when it's done right, I definitely do appreciate it. And Owlboy looks really nice. Music is terrific, of course. I gotta say, Nick, I found myself getting interested in the characters pretty easily. Honestly, I jumped into the story pretty quickly. I liked the way that they bring you into it. I don't know if I want to necessarily spoil it, but it was not really what I was expecting as far as the first interaction goes. So that was neat to me too. But I think I'm definitely going to be. I'll probably play this on either YouTube or Twitch. Actually, I'm really looking forward to playing through more of it, seeing what it's got in store.
As I went through it on my stream, I kept finding myself listening to what they were saying and be like, you just said the opposite a second ago. The plot just seems inconsistent. They put this guy in charge of guarding the town. 5 seconds later, the town gets captured, right? And then they're like, okay, now go off, do this really other big important task. And then you screw that up too, and they're like, well, why did you do the task wrong? It's like, well, why did you put me in charge of the task? Stupid?
Because you're the only other one that can fly, man.
I know, but it just is kind of like they were writing themselves into a corner, and then they've already decided the answers to all the conversations before they started the conversation.
Just to make you feel bad, basically.
Writing works, but... Look, I don't mean to be a dick about it. I think the game might still be worth recommending. It just didn't resonate as much to me. And, I get that you guys are just, in chat, they're just calling me a bitch about it. It's it's not my taste. I'm sorry. I don't know what you want.
They want blood, Nick. They want blood.
They do, yeah. They definitely want blood.
Too much blood.
I love owl people. There's nothing wrong with owl people.
Why do you hate owl people, Nick?
Owlist.
I like Ori and the Blind Forest better.
I mean, I can't disagree with that at all, but I mostly think that Ori and the Blind Forest is one of the best video games of all time, actually. But Owlboy also looks pretty promising. Looking forward to playing more of it. Anything else?
I hope it gets harder. I think I tend to be in agreement more with Nick that at some point, if the game is 10 hours long, which I've heard is roughly correct, the story is going to grate on me a little bit. It's a little been there, done that so far. Maybe they'll take a twist that changes it up, but it seems a little routine. If mechanically it's not fully there after a few hours, it's going to be a lot easier to not overlook stuff like that in the future. And that's what made Shovel Knight work so well, is that, I actually think the way that Shovel Knight told its story was very nice as well, with the dream sequences and stuff like that. But the way that was intertwined mechanically with the actual gameplay.
Right.
But in Owlboy, there's less of a tolerance for it because of the fact that it's a lot of mashing the action button through dialogue. So if it ends up that every quote unquote dungeon or section ends up being as easy as the first one, it's going to be a little harder to kind of, yawn my way through the rest of the game. But if the challenge picks up and it stays engaging, then I could see myself finishing it for sure.
Right on.
This is probably a really subtle nitpick too, but I feel like there's a little bit something psychologically about the fact that your weapons are people you carry. You always feel like you're in this laden state where you're not like yourself, you're two people. And there's something about that just like I don't really feel as much. It's just like a personal gripe, I guess, that I didn't like that was how the game is played.
Nick, it's all about friendship, man.
You come together.
Nick picking.
And then you keep you get your best friend, and then you drop him in a hole, but it doesn't matter. You just teleport him back up to you. It's like, are these people or are these objects?
Both.
Ask Yoshi what he is to Mario.
If you had to leave me on a button, and then you promise you teleport me back later,
Yeah.
I'd be okay with it.
It's a level of trust, man.
If I just messed up the controls and drop you down a 200-foot chasm, wouldn't you be a little upset about that?
Is there fall damage?
Yeah, I guess not.
There's no fall damage in real life.
You can throw the dude into the wall, and he looks pretty upset about it, but he doesn't ever take damage. So
It's comical, though, when he hits the wall.
Yeah.
I feel kind
The
of
thing
bad
that
for him.
you have to worry about right now is like after finishing the first dungeon, I'm like, why don't they just give the dude with the gun a jetpack?
Right.
Like he'd be way better off than having to get carried around by me. I don't know what I'm doing. Let him control it.
Or
Come on,
just
man,
give
these guys
the
don't
owl a
have jetpack
helmet
technology in this world. They only have flying ships.
and teleporting artifacts. Just give the
Jetpacks.
owl boy a gun on his head, and then I don't have to carry other people with me, and I would have much preferred that game.
Look, I'm not looking to weigh the pros and cons of the realism of Owlboy's companion weapons, but
I have to
breakdown
unpack
of
why
Owlboy's
that bothers
world.
me. I don't know yet. I'm
How
going to
does the
figure it out.
science of Owlboy's world work?
Anyway, Owlboy. It's on Steam now. Came out a few days ago. It's currently 10% off until November 8th. Otherwise, normal price is $25. There you go.
Yeah.
Hey, Mathis.
Hey, let's talk about Titanfall 2.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. I don't know if anybody gives a shit, but I'm gonna go into spoilers a little bit here. Talking single player campaign. Most people won't care, but I'm gonna talk about spoilers. So, Titanfall 2 single player campaign I just beat last night, and I want to say I was pretty impressed with it. I read a lot of reviews that like sucked the single player's dick. Like they said it was great.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is gonna be a really cool thing. It really wasn't great. It was pretty good with some great ideas that they left alone after they introduced it. So the idea is like you're a militiaman who gets forced into pilot status because the pilot of one of the Titans dies, and then that Titan neurologically bonds to you, and now he's your Titan and you are a pilot. The Titan has a personality, and right when they introduce him, I was like, he's gonna die at the end. That Titan is dead. Like, he's going to blow up in the end, and well, they do. But so one of the things that they do, though, that I really liked, it's very much a generic kind of action movie story with like good shooting mechanics. But in the middle of the game, they suddenly introduced time travel, and this one level in particular, they're going back between the time you're in now and the past, and they keep hinting that everything you're doing, and sometimes straight up telling you everything you're doing in the past is the reason things are the way they are in the level in the future. So it's like this continuum aspect. Like, you are the reason things are happening here. And there's this really, really cool idea that I'm like, oh, if this is where the story's going to go, this is really cool. I can see why people really liked it. And it becomes an integral part of that particular level. After the level's done, your dude rips off the time device, and he's like, I'm done with that shit. And then the time thing's all done.
Why?
And you're done with time travel. And there's story reasons, but the story is basically like, bad guys got giant weapon bends space-time, can blow up planets, stop bad guys from getting big weapon. But when they drop that, it goes back to just being kind of a regular shooter. So there was like glimpses of like really cool ideas in the single-player campaign. When that's done, they go back to cliche, and at the end, you're like, oh, the thing I expected to happen actually happened in the end, and now it's, you know, it's good. I give it like a solid B, like it was fun, but it didn't do anything that like blew my mind.
That really
It was,
disappoints me to hear that they don't like take advantage of that mechanic more, because I actually watched Strippin playing it for a little while, and he was in one of the levels, I guess, where they have that time travel mechanic, and it looked really cool.
Yeah, that's like a whole, like the whole middle level. It's like an hour and a half long, and you can go back and forth between time at will, like whenever you want at it. And there's just really neat, and you can like do it when you're in your mech, so you can like drop your mech off in the future and then go back in the past by yourself. And there's like really cool ideas there. And then they're like, all right, that was fun, done.
Man,
I'm like, oh shit.
why?
Now we gotta go
Oh,
back.
that's so silly.
And then they do the bullshit thing at the end, like they fake out, like the mech blows up, but you still have his AI core, and you put him in a new mech. You're like, oh, BT, you're back, and then they blow him up for real, like in a half hour later. You're like, oh, right, you're dead, get it.
Toy with your
And then
emotions.
there's like an after credit scene where they're like your helmet flickers a little bit, that maybe BT is still somewhere in your helmet, and then there's credits, and I'm like, damn it. It was still really fun though. Like it was still really fun. The story was mostly forgettable, but the BT, which is your mech, he's funny. Like I enjoyed his personality. You're just a kind of a typical soldier with a heart of gold kind of guy.
So you basically just told us the entire story of the game.
Yeah.
Like I said, spoilers.
I put the
It
bars up.
just came out. Why did you?
I put the bars up. I have the bars up.
I said
We're not to
spoilers.
blame.
The story's short. It's like 4 hours. 4 hours long campaign.
You look forward. Kate and I got tickets to see Doctor Strange, and if you want to check Twitter around 12:40 local time, I'll just post the ending.
You really all right? You straight up. At least you guys we're gonna play single player of Titanfall.
No, never.
It's possible.
Possible.
All
I
right.
definitely was, but I'm not playing it for the story. So
Multiplayer's great though.
yeah,
Me and Sin have been playing some multiplayer. That's where, like, if you were thinking about picking up Titanfall the single player, don't. It's not worth $60 single player. But if you wanna
What's
play-
funny is that I've been hearing like a lot of the inversion of that. Like I've been hearing people say like, you know, the Titanfall 2 single player is amazing and like it's wacky, which is kind of like the tone that they need to
Not
differentiate
wacky.
themselves.
Not.
But then like the multiplayer people were like, oh, it's hard to like get into a game that I want to get into, and I spend a lot of time trying to get into a party, and it seems like the consensus that I've seen is like single player is cool, multiplayer is kind of whack. But
I feel the opposite. I feel like the single player is does a lot of cliche things with like one really interesting idea that they pick up and drop in an hour, and then everything is just kind of the same. It doesn't really do anything special. The multiplayer, I think, is a lot better than Titanfall 1, and there's more depth there. I think their release, the choice of when they decided to release the game was poor between Battlefield 1 and Call of Duty. I'm like, oh, okay, you basically are just going to kind of kill your community pretty quickly. But when Sin and I play, like, we get into games in under a minute. We can jump in.
you can play whatever mode you want. So anyone saying that they can't choose the mode or find a team, I don't know. I don't understand how that's possible.
it could be a regional thing too. Like, you know,
Possible.
in the U.S., I imagine if it's going to be healthy anywhere, it would probably be healthy there. So
Sin, you want to weigh in on your multiplayer experience?
It's great. I mean, it definitely flows a lot smoother than Titanfall 1. I think that the fact that the Titans have more diversity as far as what they can do, they feel like classes now, instead of where Titanfall 1 was kind of like they just sort of look different because you can sort of change. You can almost match any Titan's loadout with just simply switching out the weapons and stuff.
Yeah.
But this time around, like, there are definite classes. Like Scorch, for example, he's what I would consider a tank. He is very, very beefy, kind of slow, but has a good AoE damage. And then you can go to Ronin, for example, who is, as you would expect, to be a more melee-focused Titan. It's a lot of fun.
Mhm.
I mean, one of the most awesome changes I've seen, and Mathis and I only recently found this out just through playing, was that there is a reason to mount someone else's Titan on the other team this time, because instead of you attacking the core, you can actually rip it out. And on top of that, you can bring it back to either your Titan or a friendly Titan and give it like an overshield or basically heal it with that other person's core that you ripped out.
Mhm.
So that provides another element of sort of sabotage and stuff. And I mean, they did copy and paste a lot of the elements from the first game's maps.
Yes.
But with the way that the game feels now, it almost feels like they didn't even do that because everything is so much faster now.
Mhm.
It's very hectic. It's definitely worth playing. The single player has been getting a lot of the attention. I'm still going to play through the single player despite Mathis spoiling everything. I'm just kidding, by the way. I'm not busting his balls on that. But yeah, overall, it's a much more complete game. And I am totally fine with spending the $79 that I did for the deluxe version.
Hell yeah.
It's a lot of fun. Lots of fun.
Cool.
Yeah, it is a ton of fun. I really enjoy it.
Right on. All right, Titanfall 2, $60. It's on Origin if you were looking for it. All right, it's gonna bring us into everybody's favorite segment. It's Ask Roundtable. Ask Roundtable is a weekly segment where you ask your questions, send them over to roundtableyt@gmail.com. and we can answer them. That's what's going to happen right now. The question from Dennis. He asks, what are, in your opinion, some of the greatest and most memorable video game intro sequences ever put together? I think this can probably range from maybe like an introductory cinematic to, like the first mission of a game or something like that. So one of the examples, I'll lead it off with this actually, that Dennis came up with, one that I definitely agree with, was Ori, which Nick just mentioned earlier. Ori and the Blind Forest, which came out last year, had a terrific introductory sequence. It reminded me of Up, actually, in the way, not necessarily thematically or with the content, but the way that it presented such a moving story within the first 10 minutes or so of the game that wasn't even actually the plot of the game itself, It was just sort of a subplot. And I thought Ori did a great job with that. Examples? Anybody?
Nobody's going to steal the one I mentioned before the show?
No,
All right.
it's yours. It's all yours. Take it away.
Yeah, I was going to say The Last of Us, which I was hesitant about because I've never even finished The Last of Us. I found the game was pretty average in general. I know a lot of people love it, and again, this is me being a bitch and shit.
No, man,
everything everyone loves.
No, dude, I'm so with you on that. We talked about this earlier.
Yeah.
I really don't think The Last of Us was spectacular.
It had a very touching or moving or emotional beginning, which definitely kicks it off in the right direction.
Yes.
And but then I think about it, and I'm like, well, that intro wasn't that good. How can I not think of a better example? And then, I'm racking my brain, and I can't really come up with much better. So I guess I'm going to say Last of Us, but, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
For me, one that sticks out that I'll always remember for one reason or another is Fallout 3.
Sure.
The moment when you come out of the vault and the world blinds you, and then all of a sudden you have this perfect viewpoint of just the nuked wasteland in front of you. That is always in my mind when I play open world games. I just that opening was so good for me.
Mm-hmm.
And man, the hundreds of hours I poured into Fallout 3. I don't even remember much about the tutorial before. Oh yeah, you're in the vault and stuff, but just that opening, Fallout 3. Ugh, that gets me. I loved it.
The one that I mentioned earlier was Half-Life 2. I think that's probably one of the more memorable ones for me.
Yeah.
With the whole sequence of show, it was the first time I felt like I was playing through a movie, sort of to speak, before cinematics were really a movie sort of type deal. I don't know how else to describe it. They weren't produced with a sort of cinematic feeling is the best way I can say that. So I definitely would say Half-Life 2. Honestly, Bastion's intro was pretty cool.
Oh yeah.
I enjoyed how they put everything sort of set to pieces there, and the original Borderlands intro was also pretty neat.
Oh yeah, with Claptrap. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I remember that. I'm not going to blow anybody's mind, I'm sure, with this suggestion, but I thought Skyrim's introductory sequence was pretty goddamn good. I mean, a little dated by today's standards maybe, but the way that you are brought in on the cart, and you see a dragon for the first time, it creates this massive predicament. I think it's pretty well done. And then it gives you the illusion of choice, of course, there too, but really doesn't really end up mattering that much.
Yeah, the Skyrim intro it did a great job at giving you the premise of the entire world, and then I was totally taken by surprise with the dragon intro. I thought that they were just going to save that towards a mid-game stage.
Yeah, right.
It's right there. I mean, he's right in front of you. So yeah, definitely Skyrim's up there.
Mm-hmm.
If we're not limiting it to playable sections, I guess Dark Souls and the whole Souls series have had pretty awesome introduction sequences too.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Oh, batshit crazy, fucking Metal Gear Solid 5.
Okay.
I was
You know what? I agree. That was fantastic.
Definitely memorable, right? Yeah.
I
As
love
far
that.
as establishing what kind of game this is going to be,
the fire whale in the
opening
sky.
55-minute cutscene with a fire whale in the sky was definitely it definitely
Yeah.
set the tone.
Yeah.
I think I changed my answer. I like that better than Last of
No,
Us.
that's
I really
perfectly
like that
reasonable.
intro.
Mhm.
That intro was insanity.
If you want playable intros, I mean, depending on what you consider an intro, I gotta definitely give a shout out to GTA 5 because they did a great job at sort of putting you right then and there.
Yeah.
And until you really realize that you're playing, in a flashback. Spoiler alert for
For the beginning of
5.
GTA 5. Yeah.
And I think the GTA 5's intro was very good, up until the point where you drop the car off with Franklin and Lamar,
Yeah.
Ryan's boy Lamar.
Mm-hmm.
Don't talk to me about Lamar.
He's got flashbacks.
You give Lamar $50 and he's like, "Oh, thanks a lot." He turns it into a race thing.
Of the little 40-ounce small bucket of chicken on his way to the po house.
He knows the words by heart. You just save his life, and he's like, "Hey, can I get some money?" You give him $50, and he goes, "Oh, thanks."
Lamar, he was like that was a great casted character though. I mean, the GTA 5 is just so good.
I want to mention.
Ryan? Oh yeah, go ahead, Bear. Sorry.
Well, I just want to say I want to mention Shadow again. And again, I'm not going to be blowing anybody's mind with that.
It was
But
your first word basis with Shadow.
everyone knows. Everyone knows, don't they? You knew immediately.
I love the first word you learned when you were a toddler. Shadow.
I couldn't figure out what game you're talking about, Bear.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, we had one. Ryan, you got another one?
I was kind of like in the same situation as Nick, where I'm racking my brain for like particularly AAA stuff that I've played recently, where I'm like, this has a good intro, and I'm like, like 80% of the games that I played, you're like living on a farm, and then bad guys come and kill your wife and kid, and they oh no,
But it's really true. Man. It's all the time. Even Owlboy did it.
I think BioShock was a great opening. You just played it.
Yeah, but BioShock is like, I would be just trying to like adopt street cred because I only played like the first hour before I was.
You played the opening.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I don't know.
BioShock intro is actually pretty good.
It is really good.
Yeah, I mean, it's good. But I don't know. I kind of feel like of the hour I played a BioShock, I'm like, this game didn't necessarily age all that well. Like, I know it was mature. This is a different podcast discussion, but it was like mature and novel for its time. It was tackling kind of a theme that wasn't really tackled up to that point.
Why do you hate BioShock, Ryan?
I just think that maybe because of the fact that it was early into that, you kind of maybe there's a little bit of nostalgia for it.
Yeah.
But when I was playing it through, I'm like, these mature themes are not necessarily as mature as they think they are, and most of the time, you're still just walking around shooting dudes in the face.
Kind of with you on that. Also, chat mentioned Portal 2, which I have to say that's a good call.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I forgot how cool the intro was in Portal 2.
Yep.
I haven't played it in ages, actually. I should go back and play it again.
Portal 1 intro, as far as establishing the scene, I think is great too.
It is. It's not quite as cinematic as the second one,
Yeah.
obviously, but it certainly does the job.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but
What
the
about
Portal 2
that?
is great.
Basically bought Medal of Honor Frontline in like 2002 because it had that first mission that was
Storming the beaches.
Norman-
yeah,
Is that
it
the
was
one
like
on Juno Beach?
I don't know if it was Juno Beach because Juno Beach is the one that was spearheaded by the Canadians, and I believe in Medal of Honor Frontline you're playing as the Americans, so it's probably Omaha Beach is my guess. But
It's Normandy.
Yeah.
I had to sneak that in there. Sorry.
but yeah, like I basically bought that because of that opening mission. I played through the opening mission probably like as much as I played through the entire rest of the game. So I got to give that some credit.
They had that on a demo disc, and I just played the demo over and over and never bought the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all I needed was the story.
Those are the days, man.
Yeah, Shadow of Mordor when you sneak attack your wife with a flower.
Right, yeah.
Oh, I forgot about that. That's kind of funny.
Oh,
Actually.
it's spoiled now, Mathis. I can't go back.
The whole theme of the show today.
Mathis's weird spoilers.
Dude, I would buy that T-shirt.
Yeah. All right. Dope. Thank you, Dennis, for the question. Appreciate it. If you've got a question you'd like to send us, send them over to roundtableyt@gmail.com. Time for everybody's favorite segment. After their favorite segment, it's Nick's Weird Games. Here it comes.
Nick's Weird Games. Nick's Weird Games. Probably Japanese and an RPG. They're Nick's Weird Games. Nick's Weird Games.
Woo! Thanks, Dylan, for the theme song. Again, appreciate it. Hey, it's Nick's Weird Games time. Every week, Nick's gonna go grab a weird game from his catalog of weird games, and we're gonna try to guess what it is.
All right, I've grabbed the game already, so I don't have to actually leave. It's good because Ryan doesn't have to come up with a song anymore, so we don't need an excuse to.
By the way, though, if
Rip.
you still want him to come up with one, we add the caveat that if you have an Ask Roundtable question, you can also add a recommendation for a Nick's Weird Games theme song as well. So
Why don't we jack it up a notch and say, how about if you want to request something, send us a sound file of you making a new song, and maybe we'll play it
All right.
in that slot.
There
I
you
like
go.
that idea better.
Work
'cause
for
you don't
us.
have to do anything.
that's good. Okay.
Does that make sense?
All right, Nick, you've had me stumped for like 2 or 3 weeks now.
Let's do it.
So.
Yeah, I hope I'll get you again, but there's a chance that you'll figure it out via the context of this one. So
Okay.
we're talking today about a PS1 game that
Okay.
came out in the US in 2001. It was developed by Sunsoft and published by Crave Entertainment. Now, that information alone can actually start you down a path if
Mm-hmm.
you know the Sunsoft history well enough.
I know of some softs. I mean, I don't know how well I know them, but I know of them.
Yeah,
Galarians.
no. But I know that you've had me pegged for a Galarians game for a long time. I'm never going to disappoint you. One day I'm going to bring one in.
Hey, Galarians was a weird game. I played that back in the day. That
Yeah,
was
me too.
a fucking game.
Yeah,
All right, go ahead.
this is
Continue.
Interesting. So the context of this game that makes it interesting is this is actually an adaptation of a book that's an adaptation of an older game. It's a 3D platformer. Yeah, you want me to go over that again?
If you would.
Mathis made a great face, so I was like, all right, let's take a step backward.
Like Tomba? Like they're not some.
Sorry, what
some-
platform is this on?
This is on PS1.
Okay.
Came out in 2001.
Mhm.
It is an action-adventure, single-player only game. Technically 3D platformer, I guess you could classify it as, but it's a
Okay.
little bit of a middling classification. So it's got an adaptation of an older game was made into a book. Then they took the book and turned that book into a game again. So it made the full transition around the sun.
When was the first game released?
Late 80s.
Oh dear God. Okay.
Also, I should stop answering questions when you ask them. So the story followed basically like a relaunch of the original game, but with a slightly modified plot that was sort of based on the book, but again, sort of a game of telephone from the original. Chat's gotten it already, by the
Oh
way.
my God,
That's
really?
surprising.
Man.
And congrats to the people that got it, because this is a relatively odd one. The main character's name is a 16-year-old boy named Jason.
It's a strange
Jason!
name for a
Jason.
child.
Jason!
He encounters an alien race known as the Lightning Beings
Okay.
that live in a cavern below the Earth's crust.
Okay.
I'm gonna throw some stuff out. Is it a
Yeah, go
Star
for it.
Ocean game?
No.
Is it Skies of Arcadia?
No, remember, we're talking about an action-adventure platformer game here.
That was
But
based
it was a
on,
game first in the
Final
80s.
Fantasy.
Wait, it was,
Yeah, it was a game, then it was a book, then like 15 years later, it came out on PS1.
The Da Vinci Code.
Okay.
They read like a whole new game. It wasn't like a port or anything.
No, it's a new game based on the same story, but slightly changed.
Shinobi.
No.
What
Only
is
Musha
this, like,
3.
okay, Jason tells me nothing. What?
Is there more
It actually
info?
should tell you something.
Is it Rygar?
I'm trying
There's-
to think of shooters that I played in 2001 for the PS1. I can only think of a couple, but I don't know who made this game, so I don't want to sound stupid, so I'm not going to name it.
Is it Winback? Covert Ops.
anything
Look,
else
I
you
give
can
you
tell
points for picking out some weird stuff there. Winback is not a typical guess.
Yeah.
What's up, Mathis?
Is there anything else you can throw hints at us, or is that
There's
it?
another prominent character in the series or in this particular game. It's in the series named Sophia. Does this give you anything?
Nope.
Sophia.
What does Sunsoft even make?
What does
Nothing
Sunsoft
anymore.
Wait, did they change the character? The character might be named Roddy in this version,
make? Oh,
Body.
all right.
Sounds familiar.
but he used to be Jason. I'm not sure when he changed to being Roddy. I'm not aware of this part. It reviewed fairly poorly. I see a 5 out of 10 on Game Informer. EGM gave it a 6.5. GameSpot gave it a 7.7. I think that was their best review.
Damn.
OPM gave it a 3 out of 10 in the UK.
Ooh. All right.
I mean,
got nothing.
Roddy like sounds kind of familiar, but it's not giving me any.
All right, one last hint.
Mm-hmm.
The game prominently features a particular vehicle that makes this whole gameplay possible.
Even if you
It's-
tell me the vehicle, I don't think I'm gonna know.
Yeah, what is the vehicle?
It's
Is it
it's like a kind of tank.
It's like a kind of tank. It was a game in the 80s first. The only thing,
Was it a tank?
no, okay, because the only reason I have this as an idea is because I saw a speed run of it on AGDQ, but of like an NES game of a kid in a tank. He was because the tank he could come out of the tank and like do things, gun, go back into the tank.
I was gonna say
Made that game?
Blaster Master.
Yeah,
but I
that's
don't
it. You go,
know.
Master
I don't
Blaster or
know.
whatever.
Blaster Master, but
What that one?
I don't remember that.
Did they remake that? They
Was
made a
it Blaster
book out of that?
Master?
Is that it?
You guys, Well, you know what?
I don't remember.
I shouldn't give you the point, but I guess you're close enough.
Close enough. Was it
What?
like same world?
Here's the. I dropped the game. Here's the game. Blaster Master blasting again on the PS1.
Yeah, there you go. That's
So hold
good.
up. They took. I know of the NES game only because I saw a speedrun of it, but they made a book and then they made a PS1 game on the book.
Yeah.
What?
Here's the
The
character.
fuck?
Look, this is how much of a nerd I am. I actually own the NES game and bought the book. So this has been a part of my life.
That's great.
That doesn't surprise me.
This has been a part of my life since I've been a little kid.
That's
Blaster
fantastic.
Master is a big deal. I wasn't sure if you'd be like, yeah, I remember that game, or if it would be like, I have never heard of that shit at all.
I didn't know that. Like I've only heard of the NES game in passing. Really, I did not know that they made a book and a PS1.
Yeah.
That
I
is-
remember
You should try the NES game. It's aged well, but it's also confusing as shit.
Yeah.
But if you can figure it out, it's a lot of fun.
and the PS1 it just sucks.
Yeah, not that great.
I remember
3D action didn't go well. Like the Mega Man Legends thing in the PS1 era was always kind of a misstep, in my opinion.
How was the book?
The book was cheesy, but when you're 10, who cares?
Yeah, true,
Oh, yeah.
true.
I could have swore it was a motorcycle. I kept remembering like a motorcycle for some reason, not a tank. I don't know why. Like
It's a small tank, and it's like an all-terrain tank, so it's kind of close to a
yeah,
motor.
like ATV. Okay.
How do you make a tank that isn't all terrain? You
Well,
go wherever
okay,
you
what I
want
mean
with a
is
tank, don't you?
It
I
can
think it's
jump.
about the size. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
It can jump and go up walls.
Mhm.
So that's what I mean when I say all-terrain.
Sweet.
In chat, we had... Where's the first one? I see Blaster Master blasting again by Mountain Stream. Looks like the first person that I've got in here. So congrats to you for figuring that one out.
Well done.
Again, not sure how obscure this one was, but I'll give them a point.
I don't think the only one I could think of was the NES one, so I don't think it deserved the points because
Chad, do you think they should get the point?
I think
Vote
they should
yay
get the
for
point.
point.
I did not even know they had a PS1 version.
Out of my own curiosities, I went and I googled the list of Sunsoft video games on Wikipedia, and on the PS1 in 2001, they released another game that also had a TV series associated with it
What game was that?
called Barba Papa.
Barba?
Did you ever hear of that?
Nope.
No?
Best game
I
ever.
haven't heard of that.
So yeah, I guess there's a common theme in the Sunsoft development.
Oh, chat decided you don't get the point. All
Oh.
right.
That's fair.
That's fair. You guys decided.
I don't
so
know how
I'll do
often
it
we
then.
should give them the control.
I was split because you didn't get the actual name. You got the series, which I don't think should be enough.
I agree. I'm with you.
Really?
Yeah,
All
I
right.
didn't-
Okay.
I didn't know the name of the game. I did say the series, but the tank thing kind of threw me off.
I hold myself to a much lower standard, but I guess you guys are.
Let's let chat decide what we talk about next, Bear.
You know,
I'm gonna
I
decide.
would have gotten it when somebody said Jason. I would have been like, "Oh, that's Blaster Master," but that's because I played it like
Right.
my whole life.
You live the life. Of
I lived the life of a Blaster Master.
Yeah.
You did.
Now I will die as a Blaster Master.
All right, that's going to do it for today's show. Thank you very much for tuning in to Roundtable Live. It airs every Friday. That's the day at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern. Sinvicta, where can they go to find your shit?
Hey, thanks for having me. You can find all my stuff at youtube.com/Sinvicta316. I also stream weekly, Wednesday through Saturday at twitch.tv/Sinvicta. NL and I just released the 29th episode of GeoGuessr, and go watch that on both of our perspectives. And thanks for having me.
You guys are
Always
gonna
enjoy.
you're gonna run out of places to guess at some point, aren't you? It's not,
You'd think that, but we keep getting Russia, and we
Yeah.
have so many people angry that we still don't know the difference between Portuguese and Spanish. Sorry, fans out there, that we don't know everything about everything. My bad. That's my.
I'm enrolling in Spanish immersion just to get my GeoGuessr scores up. So look for that 2018.
Yep, there you go. Diablo 4 still won't be out by then, but there you go.
Wow.
Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you very much for watching the show. You can catch the VOD over on our YouTube channels. It's Bear Tavirockley, Smile Mathis Games, Northern Line. You can also catch the VOD here on Twitch. You can follow us on Twitch. That's twitch.tv/Roundtable Podcast. You can also follow us on Twitter at Roundtable PC. Catch the show discussion over on the subreddit roundtablepodcast.reddit.com. And thank you very much to our patrons over on patreon.com/roundtable. Really want to thank those, especially at the $20 tier and above, which include General Crunk, Jonathan Graham, Julian Abelsgard, Scotty119, Super Monoman, Colby Klein, David Schmitz, Greenlight, Mavier, Oren Saltzman, Christopher Flagg, Eric Schooley, Brizzlebrit, Positron, Miss Scarab, Mediocrities, Justin, Smurfette, Logan Ray. Thank you all very much for your continued support over there. We really appreciate it. And that's going to do it. Thanks so much for watching another episode of the show. We'll be back next week, and we'll see you then. Goodbye.
Hey, everybody.
Woo!
It's not playing. Hold on. Just we're still gonna be here. Okay. Show's not over yet. Sorry, misled everybody. We're still going. Still doing a podcast. I'm gonna try to
Want
load
to talk about
this
the
file.
Vegeta market?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
For a second or two.
Did you know Yvonne was going for you?
Oh, wait, here we go. All right, got the music. Bye, everybody. See you later.
Bye.